Hello and welcome to H. Potter, your home for amazing stories. Today's story is abandoned by Dumbledore at age 4. Harry Potter was found by ancient goblins and declared their immortal king. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe if you haven't already. We post new stories regularly. Let's get started. Chapter 1, Blood and Gold. The small boy huddled against the cold stone wall of Gringotts, his thin arms wrapped around bony knees. 4-year-old Harry Potter couldn't understand why the old man with the long silver beard had left him here in the dark. The man had been kind at first, offered him sweets, told him stories about his parents, promised him a better home than the Dursleys. Then came the whispered words, a wave of a wooden stick, and Harry found himself suddenly alone in an unfamiliar alley as dawn crept over the horizon. "Stay here, Harry. It's for the greater good," were the last words he heard before the man vanished with a soft pop. Hours passed. The streets remained empty in the early morning gloom. Harry's stomach growled. He'd learned not to cry when hungry at the Dursleys, but a single tear escaped anyway, tracking down his dirt-smudged cheek. He didn't notice the small golden light approaching until it was nearly upon him. "What's this?" came a gravelly voice. Harry's head snapped up. Standing before him was the strangest creature he'd ever seen, about his height but definitely not a child. The being had long, pointed ears, a hooked nose, and sharp, intelligent eyes that gleamed in the dim light. He carried a small lantern that cast dancing shadows across his leathery face. I'm Harry," the boy whispered. The creature circled him slowly, muttering to himself. "Human child, left at our doorstep. Strange magic, very strange magic indeed." Harry shrank back against the wall. "Are you a monster?" The creature let out a bark of laughter. "A monster? No, boy. I am Nagnok, senior security warden of Gringotts Bank. The question is, what are you doing here before opening hours?" "A man left me here. Said it was for the greater good." Nagnok's eyes narrowed. Did he now? And did this man have a long beard and twinkling eyes that see too much? Harry nodded enthusiastically. "Yes. Do you know him?" "Albus Dumbledore." Nagnok spat the name like a curse. "That manipulative old wizard is always playing his games." He studied Harry more carefully, his gaze stopping at the lightning scar. "By the sacred gold, you're Harry Potter." Harry blinked in surprise. "You know my name?" "Every magical being knows your name, boy." Nagnok knelt beside him. "Tell me exactly what happened." Harry recounted his brief interaction with Dumbledore, the rescue from the Dursleys, the promises made, then the abrupt abandonment. Nagnok's face darkened with each word. When Harry finished, the goblin reached forward with one long finger and lightly touched the scar on his forehead. He jerked back as if burned. "Dark magic," he hissed. "Very dark indeed." He seemed to debate with himself for a moment before reaching a decision. "Come with me, Harry Potter. Dawn is breaking, and these streets are no place for, whatever you are." "Whatever I am?" Harry echoed, confused but standing up on shaky legs. "You carry old magic, boy. Magic that shouldn't be possible." Nagnok tapped a complex pattern on the wall beside them. "The director will want to see this." The wall slid open, revealing not the bank's grand marble entrance hall that wizards used, but a rough-hewn tunnel lit by floating crystals. Harry hesitated at the threshold. "I won't hurt you," Nagnok said, softening his gruff voice slightly. "On my honor as a goblin." Harry didn't fully understand, but he knew staying alone on the street wasn't an option. He stepped into the tunnel. Director Ragnarok slammed his gnarled fist against the obsidian table. "Abandoned? By Albus Dumbledore himself?" Harry flinched at the outburst but stayed seated in the oversized stone chair. The room they'd brought him to was deep underground, carved directly from bedrock and lit by strange blue flames. 5 older goblins in ornate armor sat across from him, all staring with unsettling intensity. Nagnok stood beside Harry, a surprisingly comforting presence. I found him at first light, Director. The magic emanating from his scar, it's unlike anything I've encountered. Let me see, demanded a goblin with a silver streak in her otherwise black hair. Without waiting for permission, she stepped forward and pressed a cold hand against Harry's forehead. Harry gasped as warmth spread from her touch. Images flashed through his mind, a high laugh, green light, a woman's scream, before the goblin jerked away, her eyes wide. Soul magic, she whispered. Fragmented and corrupt. The director's expression turned grim. Are you certain, Healer Silvermark? Without doubt. The boy contains a fragment of another's soul. Dark magic of the blackest kind. Harry looked between them, fear bubbling up. Is that bad? Am I bad? The director's fierce expression softened just slightly. No, child. You are a victim, not the perpetrator. He turned to the others. The question remains, what do we do with him? Protocol demands we contact the Ministry, said a particularly warty goblin. And return him to Dumbledore's manipulations? Nagnock challenged. The wizard who left a child carrying corrupted soul magic alone on the streets. The boy is human, growled another goblin with battle scars crisscrossing his face. Not our concern. Harry's small voice cut through their argument. Please don't send me back. Not to the Dursleys. They hate me. And not to the bearded man either. He lied. A heavy silence fell. The director studied Harry with calculating eyes. Tell me, Harry Potter. What do you know of goblins? Harry's brow furrowed. Are you goblins? I thought goblins weren't real. Just in stories. The scarred goblin let out a harsh laugh. Typical wizard ignorance. He's a child, Grimclaw, Nagnock snapped. Raised by humans who feared magic. Healer Silvermark moved closer to Harry again. May I? She asked, gesturing to his scar. Harry nodded cautiously. Her touch was gentler this time. We could remove it, she said after a moment. The soul fragment. Our magic works differently from wizards. We could cleanse him. The director's eyes widened. You believe so? With the proper ritual, yes. Harry looked up hopefully. Does that mean I could stay? Just until you fix me? The goblins exchanged glances. If we do this, the director said slowly, it creates a debt. By our laws, we would become responsible for you until the debt is repaid. I'll repay it. Harry said eagerly. I can work. I'm good at cleaning and cooking and gardening. Grimclaw sneered. We don't need human servants. But we might need something else, Nagnock said thoughtfully. Director, a moment in private. The goblins conferred in hushed tones in a corner while Healer Silvermark gave Harry a small cup of sweet-smelling liquid. For strength, she explained. You've had a difficult morning. Harry sipped the warm drink, feeling energy return to his limbs. He studied the strange room with its carved walls covered in symbols he couldn't read and weapons he couldn't name. Finally, the director returned. Harry Potter, we offer you healing and sanctuary, but there is a price. Harry straightened up. What price? You will learn our ways. Our language, our magic, our crafts. You will be tested, and if you fail, you will be returned to the wizard world when you turn 11. And if I pass? The director's smile revealed pointed teeth. Then we shall see what becomes of the boy who links two worlds. Harry didn't fully understand, but he recognized an opportunity to escape the Dursleys forever. He stuck out his small hand. Deal. The pain was unlike anything Harry had ever experienced. It felt like his skull was being split open, like something was being torn from inside him. He screamed until his throat was raw, thrashing against the restraints that held him to the ritual stone. 7 goblins surrounded him, chanting in their harsh language. Healer Silvermark stood at his head, her hands pressed against his scar, silver light flowing from her fingers into his skin. "Hold him steady," she commanded. The fragment resists. Harry's back arched as something black and viscous began to leak from his scar. It writhed in the air like a living thing, screeching in a high, cold voice. "Containment sphere," Silvermark called. Another goblin thrust forward a crystal orb that pulsed with blue light. The black substance was drawn into it, fighting every inch of the way. "Now, close the breach. Quickly." Harry felt a final surge of magic pour into him, cool and soothing after the burning pain. The black substance disappeared completely into the orb, which turned obsidian black. The chanting stopped. Harry collapsed back onto the stone, panting and drenched in sweat. His entire body tingled with strange energy. "It's done," Silvermark said, her voice hoarse from the ritual. "The soul fragment is contained." Nagnok approached, placing a cool cloth on Harry's forehead. "The boy lives." "More than lives," Silvermark said with wonder in her voice. "Look." She tilted a mirror above Harry. He blinked up at his reflection, and gasped. His scar, once angry and red, had faded to a thin silver line. But more shocking were his eyes. Still green, but now with flecks of gold that seemed to shimmer in the ritual chamber's light. "What happened to me?" Harry whispered. "Your magic was bound to the fragment," Silvermark explained. "When we removed it, your true magic awakened." She looked troubled. "But something unexpected occurred. Your magic resonated with ours during the ritual." The director stepped forward to examine Harry. "Impossible. Human and goblin magic are incompatible." "Evidently not in this case." Silvermark gestured to Harry's eyes. "The gold speaks of goblin magic now running in his veins, alongside his wizard heritage." Harry sat up weakly. "Is that bad?" "Not bad," the director said thoughtfully. "But unprecedented. You are neither fully human nor goblin, Harry Potter. You exist between worlds." Harry considered this. After years of being nothing special, worse than nothing at the Dursleys, the idea of being unique didn't sound so terrible. "What happens now?" he asked. Nagnok helped him stand on wobbly legs. "Now, your education begins." "Again," barked Battlemaster Kargok. 7-year-old Harry wiped sweat from his brow and hefted the short sword again. 3 years had transformed him from a scrawny, frightened boy into a wiry, confident child. His hair remained untamable, but now reached his shoulders in the traditional style of goblin warrior apprentices. The gold flecks in his green eyes had grown more prominent, especially when he worked magic. He faced his opponent, Silvertooth, a young female goblin only a few years older than him in goblin terms. She grinned fiercely, her own training blade at the ready. "Getting tired, Harry?" she taunted good-naturedly. Harry answered with a lightning-fast lunge that she barely parried. Their blades met with a clang that echoed through the training cavern. "Not even close," he shot back, spinning away from her counterattack. Their friendship had been hard-won. When Harry first began training with the goblin younglings, Silvertooth had been his fiercest critic, until the day he'd stood up for her against her overbearing father. Since then, they'd been inseparable, pushing each other to excel in their lessons. "Footwork, Potter!" Kargok bellowed. "You fight like a drunken mountain troll." Harry grimaced but corrected his stance. Goblin fighting styles emphasized lower center of gravity, difficult for his human frame but devastating when executed properly. Silvertooth pressed her advantage, her blade a silver blur. Harry parried desperately, giving ground until his back nearly touched the cavern wall. "Nowhere to run now," she smirked. Harry didn't answer. Instead, he channeled his focus into the sword, something he discovered he could do during intense moments. The blade hummed with energy, glowing faintly gold at the edges. When Silvertooth's next strike came, Harry's parry sent sparks flying and knocked her off balance. He pressed forward immediately, blade dancing in the complex pattern Kargok had drilled into them for weeks. 1, 2, 3 strikes, and Silvertooth's sword clattered to the stone floor. The training room fell silent. "You used magic," Silvertooth accused, but there was admiration in her voice. "You didn't say I couldn't," Harry countered, extending a hand to help her up. Kargok approached, his scarred face unreadable. Then he did something unexpected, he laughed. "Well fought, both of you." He turned to the other young goblins watching from the sidelines. "Note what happened here. Potter used what others would consider a disadvantage, his human magic, and turned it into strength. That is the goblin way." Harry beamed at the rare praise. Later, as they cooled down in the apprentice bathing pools, Silvertooth nudged Harry's shoulder. "You're getting better. Father says you might actually survive your forge trial next month." Harry splashed water at her. "Your father hates me." "He respects you," she corrected. "Different thing entirely for goblins." "I'm still nervous about the trial," Harry admitted. "Metalworking isn't exactly my strongest skill." "You'll be fine. Your magic works differently with the metals, Forge Master Gornick says it's fascinating." Harry sighed. "That's what everyone says. Fascinating. Like I'm some weird experiment." Silvertooth's expression turned serious. "You're not an experiment, Harry. You're my friend. And you'll pass the trial because you're too stubborn to fail." Harry smiled gratefully. "Thanks, Silver. Besides," she added with a mischievous grin, "if you fail, Grimclaw wins his bet with Nagnok, and I refuse to let that grumpy old cave bat have the satisfaction." The forge trial was a critical milestone for every goblin child. Success meant advancement to the next level of training, failure meant reassignment to lesser duties. For Harry, the stakes felt even higher, proof that he truly belonged in this underground world that had become his home. He stood before the great forge, its heat making the air shimmer. Master craftsmen watched from a respectful distance, Nagnok among them. His foster father, though goblins never used such terms, gave him an encouraging nod. "Begin when ready, Potter," Forge Master Gornick instructed, handing Harry a lump of raw silver. Harry took a deep breath and approached the forge. The task was clear: transform the silver into an object of both beauty and function, imbued with at least one magical property. He placed the silver into a crucible and thrust it into the hottest part of the fire. While it melted, he prepared his tools and tried to quiet his racing mind. Metalwork had always been challenging for him. Goblin magic flowed naturally into metals, but Harry's hybrid magical core sometimes produced unpredictable results. Just last week, he'd accidentally turned a practice piece of copper into a miniature singing teapot that wouldn't stop belting out drinking songs. The silver liquefied, glowing white-hot. Harry removed it carefully and began to work, pouring the molten metal into a mold he'd prepared beforehand. "Ambitious," he heard someone mutter. The design, a small dagger with intricate runic patterns, was indeed complex for a first trial. Harry ignored the comment and focused. As the silver cooled slightly, he began hammering, folding the metal back on itself repeatedly. With each fold, he pushed a fraction of his magic into the material. Time lost meaning as he worked. Sweat poured down his face, but he didn't notice. The silver began to take shape, responding to his touch in ways that felt almost sentient. When he began etching the runes along the blade, something strange happened. Instead of the protection symbols he'd planned, different marks flowed from his tools, ancient goblin runes mixed with symbols he'd never seen before. Whispers erupted among the watching masters. "Those are old runes," Gornick said, stepping closer. "From before the wizard-goblin treaty." "How do you know them, boy?" Harry looked up, confused. "I don't. They just felt right." The metal glowed beneath his fingers, absorbing his magic eagerly now. The blade took on a subtle golden sheen beneath the silver surface, pulsing with power. As he completed the final rune, the dagger flashed brightly. When the light faded, the weapon lay finished on the anvil, beautiful, balanced, and humming with magic. Gornik picked it up carefully, examining the craftsmanship. He ran a finger along the edge and jerked back in surprise when the blade drew blood despite his barely touching it. "Sharp," he commented, watching as the drop of blood was absorbed into the metal. The runes glowed briefly. "And it tastes magic. Interesting." He handed the dagger to the other examiners, who tested it with various magical instruments. Their expressions grew increasingly impressed. "The blade remembers," one ancient goblin said. "It will grow sharper with each use against enemies, duller against friends. Old magic indeed." Harry stood nervously, awaiting their verdict. Finally, Gornik turned to him. "You have created something unique, Potter. Not purely goblin, not wizard either. Something new." He paused. "The trial is passed. With distinction." Pride swelled in Harry's chest. He caught Silvertooth's eye among the apprentices watching from the back. She gave him a thumbs up and a wide grin. As the gathering dispersed, Nagnok approached, clapping Harry on the shoulder. "Well done, my boy. Your parents would be proud." It was the first time Nagnok had ever mentioned Harry's birth parents. "Did you know them?" "I met them once, when they came to establish their vault. Your mother asked intelligent questions about goblin magic. Most wizards never bother." Nagnok smiled sadly. "They would be amazed to see what you're becoming." Harry looked down at his hands, calloused now from years of training. "What am I becoming, Nagnok?" "Something the magical world has never seen before," the old goblin replied. "And that makes certain people very nervous." Not everyone celebrated Harry's success. Grimclaw, now head of security for the bank's deepest levels, watched the boy with suspicion that bordered on hatred. "He shouldn't be here," Grimclaw muttered to his conspirators as they gathered in a rarely used mining tunnel. "Human magic in our sacred halls. The old ways are being forgotten." "The director favors him," said one goblin. "And Nagnok treats him like his own blood." "Blood that will turn against us eventually," Grimclaw insisted. "Humans always do. Have you forgotten our history? The betrayals? The treaties broken before the ink dried?" The other goblins shifted uncomfortably. None could deny the centuries of mistreatment by wizard kind. "What do you propose?" asked a younger security goblin named Razorclaw. Grimclaw's eyes gleamed in the dim light. "The cave expedition tomorrow. The boy will be joining the mining team to learn our extraction methods. Accidents happen in the deep caves all the time." Razorclaw looked shocked. "You speak of murder. A child." "I speak of protecting our way of life," Grimclaw snarled. "Our ancestors would have done the same." Most of the gathered goblins looked troubled but didn't object further. The old resentments ran deep. "It will appear natural," Grimclaw continued. "A cave-in during the boys' first expedition. Tragic, but not suspicious." What none of them noticed was the small figure hiding in the shadows of an adjacent tunnel. Silvertooth pressed herself against the rough stone, hardly daring to breathe as she overheard the plot against her friend. "I'm telling you, they're planning to kill you," Silvertooth insisted, pacing Harry's small chamber that night. Harry sat on his stone bed, turning his newly crafted dagger in his hands thoughtfully. At 8 years old, he'd learned to take goblin politics seriously, but this seemed extreme even by their standards. "Grimclaw has always hated me," he acknowledged. "But actual murder? I know what I heard." Silvertooth's eyes flashed angrily. "We need to tell my father or Nagnok." Harry shook his head. "Without proof, it's just your word against the head of security. And accusing a high-ranking goblin without evidence is punishable by exile, I know." Silvertooth slumped beside him. "But we can't just do nothing." Harry studied the dagger's gleaming edge. "I'll still go on the expedition." "What? That's insane." "But I'll be prepared," Harry continued. And you'll tell Nagnok to follow discreetly. If Grimclaw makes his move, we'll have a witness. Silvertooth didn't look convinced. That's a risky plan. Harry grinned, the gold flecks in his eyes catching the lamplight. Got a better one? The next day, Harry joined the mining expedition with feigned enthusiasm. 6 goblin miners, Grimclaw, and 2 security goblins made up the party descending into the newly discovered caverns beneath Gringotts. These tunnels connect to a vein of raw magic-conducting silver, explained the lead miner as they descended. Very rare, very valuable. We must extract it carefully to preserve its properties. Harry listened attentively, noting how Grimclaw kept close behind him at all times. His dagger was concealed beneath his mining tunic, its weight reassuring against his side. The tunnels grew narrower as they descended, requiring them to walk single file. Harry could feel the immense weight of stone above them, and despite his years underground, claustrophobia crept up his spine. They reached a larger cavern where the walls glittered with veins of silver that pulsed with faint magical light. Beautiful, Harry whispered genuinely. The lead miner nodded in approval. You have good eyes, Potter. Come, I'll show you how we test the purity. As Harry followed, he noticed Grimclaw signaling subtly to his security goblins, who moved to position themselves near key support columns. Harry pretended not to notice, instead focusing on the mining demonstration. The lead miner handed him a specialized tool. Run this along the vein. If it glows blue, the silver is pure enough for ritual work. Harry did as instructed, fascinated despite the danger. The tool lit up brilliantly where it touched the silver. Excellent quality, the miner confirmed. Now wheel, a sudden rumble interrupted him. Dust and small stones began raining from the cavern ceiling. Cave in, someone shouted. Harry spun around to see Grimclaw and his conspirators already retreating toward the exit tunnel. Their plan was obvious now, they'd weakened the supports and would escape while Harry and the innocent miners were crushed. Without thinking, Harry pressed his hands against the nearest wall. He'd discovered years ago that he could sense the stone itself, a weird ability that Nagnok attributed to his unique magical blend. Now he reached out with that sense, feeling the fracture points, the stress lines, the impending collapse. Everyone moved to the north corner, he shouted. Now. The miners hesitated only briefly before obeying. Harry focused his magic through his palms into the stone, reinforcing the weakest points as the rumbling intensified. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he poured more power into the failing supports. The gold flecks in his eyes blazed like small suns as he drew on both his wizard core and his adopted goblin magic. The ceiling groaned ominously. I can't hold it much longer. Harry gasped. Just when his strength was failing, he felt another presence beside him. Nagnok pressed his hands next to Harry's, adding his own considerable power to the effort. Channel it through the silver veins, Nagnok instructed calmly. They'll conduct the magic more efficiently. Harry adjusted his focus, feeling the silver respond eagerly to their combined power. The stone solidified, the rumbling subsided. As the dust settled, Harry turned to see Grimclaw and his conspirators trapped by a partial collapse of the exit tunnel, and Director Ragnok standing behind them with a contingent of elite guards. Caught in your own trap, Grimclaw, the director said coldly. How unfortunate. Grimclaw's face contorted with rage. The human has corrupted you all. Our ancestors would recognize treachery when they saw it, Ragnok interrupted. Guards, take them to the holding cells. As Grimclaw was dragged away, still shouting about human corruption, Harry sagged against the wall in exhaustion. Nagnok caught him before he could slide to the floor. You saved them all, Nagnok said quietly. The miners would have died. How did you know to come? Harry asked. A little bird told me, Nagnok replied with a small smile, glancing at Silvertooth who stood beside her father among the guards. The lead miner approached Harry and bowed deeply, a sign of respect rarely shown to anyone outside Goblin royalty. You have the touch of stone, he said with awe. I felt it. The mountain answered you. Whispers spread among the gathered goblins. Harry noticed the way they looked at him now, not with suspicion or curiosity, but with something new. Something like reverence. It made him deeply uncomfortable. In the days following what became known as the betrayal of Grimclaw, Harry found himself the reluctant center of attention. Goblins who had previously ignored him now bowed slightly as he passed. The miners presented him with a ceremonial pick made from the silver he'd helped save. Even more unsettling were the ancient goblins who emerged from the deepest chambers to study him, scholars and seers who rarely interacted with the upper levels. I don't understand what's happening, Harry confessed to Nagnok as they shared an evening meal in the older goblins' quarters. Why is everyone acting so weird around me? Nagnok sighed heavily. They found something in the ancient archives. A prophecy. Harry groaned. Not another one. He'd learned years ago about the wizard prophecy concerning him and Voldemort, the reason Dumbledore had both protected and then abandoned him. This one is much older, Nagnok explained. Dating back to the Goblin Wars, before our kind was forced underground by wizard persecution. Harry put down his fork. And it mentions me? Not by name. It speaks of a child of two worlds who commands stone and metal, who will unite the divided and lead the forgotten back to their rightful place. That could mean anything, Harry protested. The timing is specific, Nagnok continued reluctantly. And your display of stone magic in the cave, it matches descriptions in our oldest texts of the abilities possessed by our ancient kings. Harry stared at him. Kings. But I'm human. Partially, Nagnok corrected. Your magic has evolved these past years. You're as much goblin as human now, magically speaking. Harry pushed his plate away, appetite gone. So what happens now? The trial of combat, Nagnok said gravely. Grimclaw has invoked his right to challenge you directly, despite his treachery. If you defeat him, according to the ancient laws, his opposition to you ends forever. And if I lose? Nagnok's silence was answer enough. The combat arena was carved from a single massive piece of obsidian, its black surface reflecting the magical lights like a dark mirror. Hundreds of goblins filled the surrounding stands, the largest gathering Harry had seen in his 5 years underground. At 10 years old, Harry stood tall but still looked small compared to Grimclaw and his battle armor. The disgraced security chief had been permitted his freedom for this sacred ritual, his hatred for Harry apparently outweighing his desire to escape punishment for his crimes. Director Ragnok presided over the proceedings from an elevated throne. This trial of combat will determine the truth of blood and honor, he intoned formally. Grimclaw challenges Harry Potter's place among us. Let magic and skill decide. Harry wore simple leather armor, reinforced with goblin steel at vital points. His only weapon was the dagger he'd crafted himself. Grimclaw, by contrast, carried both sword and axe, with decades of combat experience evident in his scarred body. This is murder, not combat, Silvertooth had protested when she saw the matchup. But Harry understood the importance of this moment. He couldn't be given special treatment if he was ever to be truly accepted. Begin. Ragnok commanded. Grimclaw wasted no time, charging forward with a roar that echoed through the arena. His axe swept down in an arc that would have split Harry in two if he hadn't rolled aside at the last second. Stand still and die with dignity, human. Grimclaw snarled, pressing his attack. Harry didn't respond, focusing on evading the larger opponent's powerful but predictable strikes. Years of training with goblin battlemasters had taught him to conserve energy, to wait for openings rather than create them. Grimclaw grew frustrated as minutes passed without landing a significant blow. His attacks became wilder, less controlled. Fight back, coward. Harry finally spoke, his voice calm. I'm not your enemy, Grimclaw. You are the enemy of all true goblins. Grimclaw spat, launching another furious assault. This time, Harry didn't just evade. He stepped inside Grimclaw's guard, using his smaller size as an advantage rather than a handicap. His dagger flashed, scoring a thin cut along the goblin's arm. The blade gleamed as it tasted blood, the runes activating just as they had during Harry's trial. Grimclaw howled in pain and surprise. "First blood to Potter," called the official observer. The crowd murmured in approval. First blood was significant in goblin dueling tradition, but not decisive. Grimclaw backed away, reassessing his opponent with newfound respect. "You've learned our ways well," he acknowledged grimly. "But not well enough." He launched into a complex series of attacks that drove Harry back across the obsidian floor. One swing caught Harry's shoulder, slicing through leather to draw blood. "First blood to Grimclaw," the observer announced. "The score is even." Harry winced but kept his focus. The cut wasn't deep, but it stung fiercely. Grimclaw pressed his advantage, forcing Harry toward the arena's edge. With his back nearly to the wall, Harry made his move. Instead of retreating further, he dropped and slid between Grimclaw's legs, slashing upward with his dagger as he passed. Grimclaw roared in pain but spun with surprising agility, his sword catching Harry across the back as he tried to roll away. Harry stumbled, feeling warm blood soaking his tunic. The crowd gasped. "Second blood to Grimclaw," the observer called. "Advantage Grimclaw." Harry knew he couldn't win through conventional fighting. Grimclaw was too experienced, too strong. But there was another way, if he dared. He pressed his free hand against the obsidian floor, connecting with the stone as he had in the cave. The black surface was different from natural stone, purer, more resistant to his influence. But not immune. As Grimclaw approached for the kill, Harry channeled his magic downward. The obsidian floor beneath Grimclaw's feet suddenly rippled like water, throwing the goblin off balance. Shock rippled through the arena. Manipulating the sacred combat floor was unprecedented. Harry didn't waste the opportunity. He lunged forward, his dagger finding the gap in Grimclaw's armor at the shoulder joint. The blade sank deep, the runes flaring gold as they recognized an enemy. "Decisive strike to Potter," the observer shouted above the crowd's roar. Grimclaw dropped to one knee, his weapons clattering to the floor. Blood poured from the wound, but his eyes remained defiant. "Finish it," he growled. "Take my head as our laws permit." Harry stood over his fallen opponent, dagger raised. The arena fell silent, hundreds of goblin eyes watching his choice. Slowly, deliberately, Harry sheathed his dagger. "I didn't fight to kill you, Grimclaw. I fought to earn my place here." He extended his hand. "Your knowledge and experience are valuable to our people. I would rather have your wisdom than your death." Grimclaw stared at the offered hand in disbelief. Then, to everyone's shock, he grasped it with his good arm. "Our people," he repeated quietly. "Perhaps you understand more than I thought, Potter." As Harry helped his former enemy to his feet, the arena erupted in thunderous approval. Director Ragnarok descended from his throne, approaching the center of the arena. "The trial is complete," he announced. "Harry Potter has proven himself by both combat and mercy." He turned to face the assembled goblins. "The prophecy speaks true. Before us stands the bridge between worlds, the one who will lead us from darkness." Ragnarok knelt before Harry, an act so shocking that many gasped. One by one, the other goblins followed suit, until the entire arena was kneeling. "Hail Harry Potter," Ragnarok proclaimed, "King of the Forgotten People, wielder of stone and steel, bridge between worlds." Harry stood frozen in shock, blood still dripping from his wounds, as thousands of goblin voices repeated the acclamation. This hadn't been part of the plan when he'd agreed to the trial. His eyes found Nagnok's in the crowd. His mentor gave him a small, proud smile and a barely perceptible shrug that seemed to say, "I tried to warn you." The coronation took place on Harry's 11th birthday. The timing wasn't coincidental. The goblins believed that 11 was a number of powerful magical significance, representing the balance between childhood and adult potential. Harry stood in his ceremonial chamber, barely recognizing himself in the reflection. Gone was the scrawny, frightened boy from Privet Drive. In his place stood a young king in armor of goblin silver inlaid with gold, his unruly black hair bound back with a circlet of platinum and emerald. The scar on his forehead had faded to a barely visible line. "Nervous?" asked Nagnock, adjusting Harry's ceremonial sword belt. "Terrified," Harry admitted. "I don't know the first thing about being a king." "Which is precisely why you'll be a good one," Nagnock replied. "Those who crave power rarely deserve it." Silvertooth entered, herself resplendent in the armor of the Royal Guard, a position she'd earned through merit and her unwavering loyalty to Harry. "It's time," she announced. "The gathering awaits." Harry took a deep breath. "Let's get this over with." The coronation chamber was the most ancient part of the Goblin Kingdom, predating even Gringotts itself. Carved directly from the living stone beneath London, its vaulted ceiling disappeared into darkness above. Representatives from every goblin clan filled the vast space, their armor and weapons creating a sea of silver and gold. Harry walked the central aisle alone, feeling thousands of eyes upon him. At the far end stood High Priest Ragnarok, in ceremonial robes that hadn't been worn in centuries. Beside him rested an ancient stone table bearing a simple golden crown. Not the gaudy, jewel-encrusted affairs of human kings, but a slim band of pure goblin gold inscribed with runes so old that few could still read them. Harry knelt before the altar as ritual demanded. "Who comes before the ancient throne?" Ragnarok intoned. "Harry James Potter, child of two worlds," Harry responded as he'd been taught. "By what right do you claim kingship over the goblin nation?" "By right of prophecy, by right of blood freely given, by right of combat honorably won, and by right of stone that answers to my call." Ragnarok lifted the crown. "This crown has waited 1,000 years for a worthy head. It binds its wearer to our people for all time. Do you accept this bond?" Harry hesitated only briefly. "I accept." As the crown touched his head, magic surged through Harry like lightning. He gasped as knowledge flooded his mind, the complete goblin language in all its dialects, the location of every goblin settlement worldwide, the names of every clan chief and their bloodlines. Most overwhelming was the connection he suddenly felt to the goblin magic permeating the kingdom. The stone itself seemed to sing to him, the precious metals calling from their veins deep in the earth. He could feel every goblin present as a point of light in his awareness. When the surge subsided, Harry rose to his feet, feeling fundamentally changed. The crowd erupted in cheers and the clashing of weapons against shields, the traditional goblin salute. Ragnarok bowed deeply. "The crown accepts you, Harry Potter. You are now and forever king of the goblin nation, until magic itself fades from the world." As Harry turned to face his people, he caught sight of Nagnock wiping away a suspicious moisture from his eyes. Silvertooth stood at attention, pride evident in her bearing. The celebration continued long into the night, with feasting and contests of skill. Harry participated as tradition demanded, though his mind still reeled from the magical transformation. It was near midnight when a goblin messenger approached his throne, bowing low. "My king, a letter has arrived for you." Harry accepted the heavy parchment envelope, immediately recognizing the wax seal, a stylized H surrounded by 4 animals. "Hogwarts," he murmured. "Your wizard school summons you," Nagnock said from beside the throne. "As we knew they would." Harry broke the seal and read, "Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confede, of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have a place at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall." Deputy Headmistress Harry looked up at Nagnock, Silvertooth, and Ragnarok, who had gathered around him. "Dumbledore," Harry said quietly. The one who abandoned me. What will you do? Silvertooth asked. Harry considered the letter again, then smiled slowly, a smile that combined human determination with goblin cunning. I believe it's time for the wizarding world to meet their long-lost savior, he said. And for Albus Dumbledore to face the consequences of his actions. You'll attend, then? Ragnarok asked. Harry nodded. A king should know all his potential allies and enemies. Besides, he added with a gleam in his gold-flecked eyes, I'm rather curious to see Dumbledore's face when I arrive with a goblin honor guard. Silvertooth grinned fiercely. Can I volunteer for that duty? I wouldn't have it any other way, Harry assured her. As the celebration continued around them, Harry folded the Hogwarts letter carefully and tucked it away. The wizarding world had forgotten about him for 7 years. They had no idea what was coming their way. The boy who lived was returning, but as the Goblin King. Chapter 2, Forged in Fire. Platform 9 3/4 bustled with the usual start-of-term chaos, parents hugging children goodbye, students shouting to friends, owls hooting indignantly in their cages. Nobody paid much attention to the barrier at first, until a contingent of armored figures marched through in perfect formation. Conversations died mid-sentence. Parents pulled children behind them. A few wands appeared cautiously. 6 goblin warriors in gleaming silver armor moved with military precision, forming a V formation that parted the crowd like a knife. Their weapons remained sheathed but visible, a calculated statement. Behind them walked a striking young boy with wild black hair and unusual green-gold eyes, dressed in a peculiar blend of wizard robes and goblin-crafted leather armor. Is that? It can't be, Harry Potter. The whispers spread across the platform like wildfire. The boy who had vanished from the wizarding world 7 years ago walked among them now, surrounded by goblin guards. Harry kept his expression neutral, though inwardly he was cataloging every reaction. The fear on adult faces. The curiosity from children. The calculated looks from those who clearly recognized political implications. A flash of movement caught his eye, a reporter with a camera, rushing forward. Mr. Potter. Rita Skeeter, Daily Prophet. Is it true you've been living with goblins? Were you kidnapped? Are you being held hostage? Silvertooth, leading the guard formation, moved to intercept, but Harry placed a hand on her armored shoulder. I've got this, he murmured in gobbledygook. He faced the reporter directly. Ms. Skeeter, I wasn't kidnapped. I was abandoned at Gringotts as a child and taken in by those who actually wanted me. The goblins became my family when wizards failed me. Skeeter's acid green quill danced across her notepad. Abandoned? By whom? Harry's smile didn't reach his eyes. I believe that's a question best asked of Albus Dumbledore. Gasps rippled through the now silent crowd. Harry continued walking, his guards reforming around him. But what about the goblins? Skeeter called after him. Why are they here? Harry paused at the train door. As royal guards typically accompany their king, I'd think that obvious. He stepped onto the Hogwarts Express, leaving a platform full of stunned witches and wizards in his wake. Finding an empty compartment proved simple, students scattered when they saw the goblin guards approaching. Harry settled into a window seat while Silvertooth and another guard named Iron Fist took positions inside. The remaining 4 guards stationed themselves in the corridor. You enjoyed that, Silvertooth observed, switching to gobbledygook. Harry grinned. Maybe a little. Your Majesty attracts attention wherever he goes, Iron Fist said dryly. Harry shot him a look. We agreed, no Majesty at Hogwarts. I'm just Harry here. As you wish, just Harry, Silvertooth replied with a smirk. A hesitant knock interrupted them. Harry nodded to Iron Fist, who opened the door to reveal a round-faced boy and a girl with straggly blonde hair. Excuse me, the boy stammered. Everywhere else is full. Would you mind if we? Harry waved them in. Please. The guards' expressions remained impassive as the two students entered cautiously. "I'm Neville Longbottom," the boy offered nervously. "And this is Luna Lovegood." "Harry Potter," Harry replied, watching their reactions. Neville's eyes widened predictably, gaze darting to Harry's forehead. Luna, however, merely tilted her head curiously. "Your aura is fascinating," she said dreamily. "Half wizard, half goblin. I've never seen anything like it." Silvertooth tensed, but Harry found himself intrigued rather than offended. "Most people can't see magical auras," he noted. Luna smiled vaguely. "Most people don't look properly." An awkward silence followed until Neville cleared his throat. "Is it true what they're saying? That you're the Goblin King?" Harry considered him for a moment. "Yes. Though I'm attending Hogwarts as a student, not as royalty." "Why?" Luna asked bluntly. "To learn wizard magic," Harry replied. "I already know goblin magic." "You can do both?" Neville looked astonished. Harry held out his palm. A small flame appeared, dancing above his skin, standard wizard magic. Then the flame transformed, taking on a metallic gold sheen as it twisted into the shape of a tiny dragon, distinctly goblin magic. Both Neville and Luna leaned forward, fascinated. "That's beautiful," Luna whispered. The ice broken, conversation flowed more easily. Luna shared stories about magical creatures Harry had never heard of, while Neville shyly admitted his passion for herbology. "Plants respond to intention and respect," Harry told him. "Goblins use singing to coax rare metals from the earth, perhaps something similar would work with difficult plants." Neville looked thoughtful. "I never considered that." The compartment door slid open again, revealing a girl with bushy hair and prominent front teeth. "Has anyone seen a toad?" A boy named. She stopped abruptly, taking in the armored goblins. "Oh. I didn't realize." "No toads here," Silvertooth said in accented English. The girl stared at Harry. "You're Harry Potter. I've read all about you in modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts." "Then you've read fiction," Harry replied coolly. "Since no wizard has known my whereabouts for 7 years." She blushed. I suppose you're right. I'm Hermione Granger, by the way." When Harry introduced his goblin guards, Hermione's academic curiosity overwhelmed her nervousness. "I've read that goblin magic differs fundamentally from wizard magic because it's bound to earth and metal rather than channeled through wands. Is that accurate?" Silvertooth raised an eyebrow. "Partially. It's more about intention and connection," Harry explained. "Wizards impose their will on magic. Goblins negotiate with it." "Fascinating," Hermione exclaimed. "Could you recommend any books on the subject?" "The Hogwarts library must have." "They don't," Harry interrupted. "Goblin magic is protected knowledge." Hermione looked disappointed but rallied quickly. "Well, I should continue looking for that toad. It was nice meeting you all." After she left, Silvertooth snorted. "She'll be trouble." "She's just curious," Harry defended. "Curious humans have stolen our secrets before," Iron Fist reminded him grimly. Harry couldn't argue with that historical fact. Instead, he turned his attention out the window, watching the countryside roll by. Somewhere ahead lay Hogwarts, and Dumbledore. The fleet of small boats glided across the Black Lake, carrying first-years toward Hogwarts Castle. Most boats held 4 students, Harry's contained only him and Luna, as Silvertooth and Iron Fist occupied the remaining space. The other guards had reluctantly remained behind after Hagrid insisted it was tradition for only first-years to cross by boat. Luna trailed her fingers through the dark water. "There are more people watching us," she commented casually. Harry, who could indeed sense the magical signatures beneath the surface, nodded. 17 of them. She gave him a pleased look, as if he'd passed some test. As they rounded a bend, Hogwarts came into full view, its many towers and turrets silhouetted against the starry sky. Harry felt an unexpected tug of emotion, not quite belonging, but recognition. Magic called to magic. It's beautiful, he acknowledged quietly. Different from goblin architecture, Silvertooth observed. Not better. Just different. When they reached the shore, Professor McGonagall awaited them, her stern expression faltering momentarily at the sight of Harry's goblin guards. "Mr. Potter," she said, recovering quickly. "Headmaster Dumbledore would like a word before the sorting ceremony." "I bet he would," Harry replied evenly. "But I'm a student like any other tonight. I'll see the headmaster afterward." McGonagall's nostrils flared. "Mr. Potter, while I appreciate your unique situation, at Hogwarts, the headmaster's requests are requests, not commands," Harry finished for her. "And I'm declining." He gestured to the castle. "Shall we proceed with the sorting? I've been looking forward to it." The professor studied him for a long moment, clearly recalibrating her expectations of the boy she'd last seen as an infant. Finally, she gave a tight nod and turned to address all the first years. Harry caught the impressed looks from several students nearby. Standing up to McGonagall on the first day wasn't something many would attempt. As they followed her into the castle, Neville fell into step beside Harry. "That was brilliant," he whispered. "Terrifying, but brilliant." Harry shrugged. "Goblins believe in establishing boundaries clearly from the beginning." "Is that why you have guards?" a sneering voice interrupted. A pale, blond boy pushed his way forward. "Afraid Dumbledore might hex you?" "The Royal Guard accompanies King Harry as a matter of protocol," Silvertooth stated coldly. "Not fear." The blond boy's eyes widened slightly. "King? You actually believe that rubbish about being Goblin King? Draco Malfoy, I presume?" Harry replied, recognizing him from Goblin intelligence reports. "Your father's still upset about that audit last year?" Malfoy's pale face flushed pink. The Malfoy audit had uncovered several questionable artifacts in their vault, resulting in substantial fines. "My father says goblins should know their place," he hissed. Harry smiled pleasantly. "Funny. My people say the same about Malfoys." Before Draco could respond, McGonagall returned to lead them into the Great Hall. The magnificent space fell silent as Harry entered with his goblin guards. At the staff table, Dumbledore's twinkling eyes dimmed noticeably. The Sorting Hat's song washed over Harry without really registering. He was too busy studying the professors, identifying each from the briefings he'd received. Snape, the potions master with Death Eater connections. Quirrell, newly appointed to Defense Against the Dark Arts, whose turban emanated strange magic that made Harry's scar prickle uncomfortably. Flitwick, part goblin himself, watching Harry with undisguised curiosity. When McGonagall called, "Potter, Harry," whispers erupted throughout the hall. Harry walked forward confidently, Silvertooth and Iron Fist flanking him until he reached the stool. As the hat descended over his eyes, Harry instinctively reinforced his mental shields, a goblin technique for protecting sensitive information during negotiations. My, a small voice said in his ear. "A clemency already? And goblin style at that. How fascinating." "I prefer privacy," Harry thought back. "Understandable, Your Majesty," the hat replied, sounding amused. "Now, where to put you? Courage aplenty for Gryffindor. Cunning and ambition for Slytherin. Loyalty to your adopted people for Hufflepuff. And Ravenclaw?" Harry prompted. "Ah yes. A thirst for knowledge. A desire to understand both your worlds. And an innovative approach to magic I haven't seen in centuries." The hat seemed to ponder. "Your parents were Gryffindors, you know." "I'm not my parents." "Indeed you are not." The hat sounded pleased. "Very well then, Ravenclaw." The blue and bronze table exploded with cheers as Harry removed the hat. He nodded to his guards, who took positions near the entrance to the great hall, and joined his new housemates. Luna, already sorted into Ravenclaw, shifted to make room for him. Throughout dinner, students peppered him with questions about goblin life, which Harry answered selectively. He was keenly aware of Dumbledore watching him from the high table, those blue eyes calculating behind half-moon spectacles. When the feast concluded, Dumbledore rose for announcements. His gaze lingered on Harry as he warned students away from the forbidden third-floor corridor, unless you wish to die a most painful death. Subtle, Harry muttered to Luna. She nodded dreamily. Like wearing bells to sneak past a crumplehorned snorkack. Harry wasn't entirely sure what that meant, but he appreciated the sentiment. As students began filing out, Professor Flitwick approached. "Mr. Potter, the headmaster would like to see you in his office." Harry had expected this. "I'll meet you there in 30 minutes, Professor. I need to get my guards settled first." Flitwick looked torn between protocol and curiosity. "Of course, Mr. Potter. The password is the chocolate frogs." Harry thanked him and followed the Ravenclaw prefects to their tower, making mental notes of the castle's layout. The Ravenclaw common room, accessed by answering a riddle rather than giving a password, impressed him with its airy design and wall-to-wall bookshelves. After a brief discussion with Silvertooth and Iron Fist about security arrangements, Harry headed to Dumbledore's office, 2 guards accompanying him. "Remember," he told them in gobbledygook, "no matter what he says, he can't legally keep me here against my will." The gargoyle guarding Dumbledore's office leapt aside when Harry gave the password. At the top of the spiral staircase, he knocked once on the oak door. "Enter," called a serene voice. Harry stepped inside, guards flanking him. Dumbledore sat behind his desk, fingers steepled, blue eyes twinkling at full force. "Harry, my boy," he began warmly. "How wonderful to, it's your Majesty or Mr. Potter," Harry interrupted coolly. "I'm not your boy." The twinkle dimmed. "I see. Please, sit down. Mr. Potter." Harry took the offered chair while his guards remained standing. He studied the old wizard who had shaped, and nearly destroyed, his life. In person, Dumbledore seemed both more and less than his reputation, power practically radiated from him, yet there was a weariness in his eyes that the twinkling couldn't quite hide. "I must say, your arrival caused quite a stir," Dumbledore continued. "The Daily Prophet will have a field day tomorrow." "I imagine so. Perhaps we could discuss where you've been these past 7 years. I've been quite concerned." Harry raised an eyebrow. "Concerned? That's an interesting word choice for someone who abandoned a 4-year-old child on the doorstep of Gringotts Bank in the middle of the night." Dumbledore's face paled slightly. "Harry, Mr. Potter, I assure you, there's been some misunderstanding. I placed you with your aunt and uncle for your protection. And then removed me in the night, modified their memories, and left me at Gringotts," Harry finished. "Let's not insult each other with lies, Headmaster." A heavy silence fell. One of the silver instruments on Dumbledore's desk began emitting small puffs of purple smoke. "How much do you remember?" Dumbledore finally asked. "Everything. Your visit to Privet Drive. The sweets you offered. Your promise of a better home." Harry leaned forward. "The words, 'greater good,' as you disappeared." Dumbledore closed his eyes briefly. "I see. And the goblins took you in?" "They did more than that. They healed me, educated me, and recognized me for what I am." "And what is that, precisely?" Dumbledore asked carefully. Harry smiled without humor. "Something you never anticipated. Now, I believe it's my turn for questions." For the next hour, Harry methodically extracted information from Dumbledore about his parents, Voldemort, and the night that had orphaned him. The headmaster was selective with details, but Harry's goblin negotiation training helped him identify evasions and half-truths. "You're not telling me everything about why Voldemort targeted my family," Harry concluded. "Some knowledge is dangerous when acquired too early," Dumbledore replied. And some secrets are dangerous when kept too long, Harry countered. But we'll return to that another time. He rose from his chair. It's been an illuminating conversation, Headmaster. Before you go, Dumbledore said, I must insist your guards remain outside the castle proper. Having armed goblins roaming Hogwarts violates several educational decrees. Actually, it doesn't, Harry replied. I reviewed the Hogwarts charter on the train. Foreign dignitaries are permitted appropriate security during their education here. There's precedent with the Russian Archduke's son in 1738. Dumbledore looked genuinely surprised. You've done your research. Goblins always review contracts thoroughly. Harry moved toward the door. My guards will maintain a minimal presence and won't disrupt classes. I cannot allow, it wasn't a negotiation, Harry said firmly. Just a courtesy notification. Good night, Headmaster. As the door closed behind them, Silvertooth whispered, that went well. Harry's expression remained neutral until they were safely down the staircase. Then he let out a long breath. Phase 1 complete. Now the real work begins. Harry's first week at Hogwarts proved educational in ways beyond the curriculum. He observed how students from different houses interacted, noted which professors showed competence versus coasting on reputation, and mapped the castle's layout with goblin thoroughness. His classmates oscillated between fascination and wariness. Most Ravenclaws embraced his presence as an intellectual curiosity. Hufflepuffs were cautiously friendly. Gryffindors seemed torn between admiration for his boldness and discomfort with his goblin connections. Slytherins maintained calculated distance, with the exception of Draco Malfoy, who made his disdain obvious. In classes, Harry demonstrated an unusual magical approach that combined wizard theory with goblin practicality. During charms, when teaching the levitation spell, Professor Flitwick observed with fascination as Harry performed the charm without the prescribed wand movement. Remarkable, Mr. Potter, the diminutive professor exclaimed. You've modified the magical flow structure. Goblin magic focuses on intent over form, Harry explained. The wand movement helps focus wizard magic, but it's not strictly necessary if your intent is clear enough. Flitwick, with his own goblin heritage, seemed particularly interested in Harry's techniques and often asked to speak with him after class. These conversations quickly became one of Harry's favorite parts of Hogwarts. Transfiguration presented different challenges. Professor McGonagall's precise approach clashed with Harry's more intuitive style. Mr. Potter, she said after he'd successfully turned a match into a needle using a method entirely different from her instructions, while your result is acceptable, your technique lacks discipline. Transfiguration requires precision. With respect, Professor, I achieved the same result with less magical expenditure, Harry pointed out. That may be, but standardized methods exist for a reason. In more complex transfigurations, improvisational approaches can be dangerous. Harry nodded politely but continued using his hybrid techniques when practical. Results, as goblins had taught him, mattered more than adhering to tradition for tradition's sake. Potions proved most challenging, not because of difficulty, but because of Snape's obvious bias. Potter, the professor sneered during their first lesson, our new celebrity. Tell me, does being Goblin King exempt you from reading the assigned textbook? No, Professor, Harry replied calmly. Then perhaps you can tell me what I would get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? The draught of living death, sir. Snape's eyes narrowed slightly. Where would you look if I told you to find a bezoar? The stomach of a goat, although goblins prefer those from mountain goats over domesticated varieties. They're more effective against metallurgic poisons. A muscle twitched in Snape's jaw. What is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? They're the same plant, also called aconite. Goblins use it in bladesmithing rituals to create weapons particularly effective against werewolves. The classroom had gone completely silent. Snape stared at Harry for a long moment before turning away. Correct, he said curtly. though no one asked for goblin trivia. Throughout the lesson, Snape continued trying to find fault with Harry's work, but the young Ravenclaw's potion turned out perfect, another benefit of goblin training, where precision in alchemical processes was literally a matter of life and death. By Friday, Harry had established a routine that included classes, exploring the castle with Luna and occasionally Neville, and regular security briefings with his guards. Each night, he wrote detailed reports for Nagnock and the Goblin Council. That evening, Harry sat in a quiet corner of the Ravenclaw common room, consulting a specialized map his guards had created showing all known entrances and exits to the castle. Luna perched beside him, sketching strange creatures in a leather-bound journal. "You're trying to figure out how to leave the castle undetected," she observed without looking up from her drawing. Harry glanced around to ensure no one was listening. "What makes you think that?" "You keep examining that passage behind the one-eyed witch statue. And you asked me yesterday if I knew how often the gamekeeper visits the Forbidden Forest." She looked up with her protuberant eyes. "You're planning something tonight." Harry studied her carefully. In just 1 week, Luna had proven herself unusually perceptive. "If I were, would you tell anyone?" She tilted her head. "Friends keep secrets, don't they? Even unusual friends like us." A warmth spread through Harry's chest. "Yes, they do." Luna returned to her drawing. "The forest has many hidden paths. Some lead to interesting places beyond Hogwarts boundaries." Harry smiled slowly. "Thank you, Luna." At midnight, Harry slipped out of Ravenclaw Tower under a goblin-crafted invisibility cloak, different from wizard versions. It concealed not just vision but magical signature as well. He met Silvertooth at a predetermined location near the entrance hall. "Ready?" she asked in gobbledygook. Harry nodded. Together they moved silently through the castle, avoiding Filch and Mrs. Norris with ease. Outside, they skirted the edge of the Forbidden Forest until reaching a particular ancient oak Luna had described. 3 stones at the base, shaped like arrowheads, Harry murmured, finding them by touch in the darkness. He arranged the stones in a specific pattern and channeled a pulse of goblin magic into them. The ground beneath the massive roots shimmered, revealing a narrow tunnel. "Goblin made," Silvertooth observed with surprise. "From the last rebellion," Harry confirmed. Luna's mother discovered it while researching magical convergence points. They descended into the earth, the tunnel gradually widening until it connected with a larger passage that sloped steadily downward. After nearly an hour of walking, they emerged into a familiar crystalline cavern, one of the outermost boundaries of the Goblin Kingdom. Guards stationed there dropped to one knee when they recognized Harry. "Your Majesty," their captain greeted him. "The council awaits." Deeper within the kingdom, the governing council had assembled in their chamber. Director Ragnarok rose as Harry entered. "Welcome home, my king." Harry embraced his mentor warmly before taking his place at the head of the obsidian table. Report. For the next hour, the council updated him on kingdom affairs, intelligence gathered about wizard activities, and progress on special projects Harry had initiated before leaving. "The ministry grows increasingly nervous about your presence at Hogwarts," Ragnarok informed him. "Fudge has scheduled meetings with the Hogwarts governors." As expected, Harry nodded. "And our informants within the Death Eater families?" "They report increased communication," Ironclaw, the spymaster, replied. "Your return has stirred dormant allegiances." "What of the third-floor corridor at Hogwarts?" Harry asked. "My guards report unusual magical signatures." Nagnock, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. "Our sources confirm Dumbledore is housing the Philosopher's Stone there." Murmurs ran around the table. The stone, created by Nicholas Flamel, was one of the most powerful magical artifacts in existence, capable of producing the elixir of life and transforming base metals into gold. Why bring such an item into a school? Harry wondered aloud. "Bait," Nagnock suggested grimly. "Dumbledore suspects Voldemort isn't truly dead." Harry touched his scar thoughtfully. The Horcrux the Goblins had removed years ago supported that theory. The stone's defenses, he asked. Multiple layers, created by different professors, Ragnarok reported. Substantial, but not impenetrable. And definitely not child-proof, Harry observed dryly. How convenient that such dangerous protections would be accessible to a first year. The implications hung heavy in the air. You believe Dumbledore intended this as a test for you, Ragnarok stated. The timing is suspicious, Harry agreed. The stone moved to Hogwarts the same year I return. He tapped his fingers on the table thoughtfully. We need more information about Quirrell. Something about him doesn't add up. After concluding council business, Harry spent an hour in the Royal Library researching soul magic and Horcruxes. The Goblins had extensive knowledge about both, having encountered similar magic throughout their long history. As dawn approached, he reluctantly prepared to return to Hogwarts. I should be going. Wouldn't want anyone to notice I'm missing. Ragnarok walked with him to the tunnel entrance. Be careful, Harry. Dumbledore plays a long game. So do I, Harry replied with a grin. And I had better teachers. October brought crisp autumn air and increasing academic demands. Harry excelled in most subjects, though defense against the dark arts frustrated him. Professor Quirrell's stuttering lectures barely covered the material, and the classroom reeked of garlic. More troubling was the strange magic Harry sensed emanating from Quirrell's turban. It felt disturbingly similar to the Horcrux that had once resided in his scar. During Halloween feast preparations, Harry cornered Hermione Granger in the library. Despite their rough start, he'd come to respect her academic thoroughness. Hermione, what do you know about possession magic? She looked up from her Ancient Runes essay, surprised. Possession? That's incredibly dark magic, Harry. Why do you ask? Theoretical interest, he replied casually. I noticed some references in the restricted section books visible from the upper shelves. Hermione's eyes narrowed suspiciously, but her scholarly nature couldn't resist the question. Well, according to Magic Most Evil, possession requires a disembodied spirit with strong magic and a willing or weakened host. It's extremely rare. What are the signs? Inconsistent behavior. Blackouts the host can't remember. Physical symptoms like pain or fatigue. She studied him carefully. Harry, if you're concerned about someone, just research, I promise. He changed the subject. How's the charms essay coming? Later that evening, Harry skipped the Halloween feast, choosing instead to investigate the third-floor corridor while the castle was nearly empty. With Silvertooth and Iron Fist flanking him, he approached the forbidden door. Strong locking charm, he murmured, examining it with goblin detection magic. But straightforward. A simple Alohomora clicked the lock open. Inside, they discovered an enormous three-headed dog sleeping fitfully. Cerberus, Silvertooth whispered. Guardian creature. Harry noticed the trapdoor beneath one of its massive paws. First line of defense. Ragnarok was right about the stone's location. A discarded flute near the wall suggested how to pacify the beast. Harry made a mental note for future reference. Let's go, he whispered. We've seen enough for now. As they eased the door shut, a voice spoke from behind them. Students out of bed? How very disappointing. They turned to find Severus Snape, his wand drawn and eyes glittering dangerously. Professor, Harry acknowledged calmly. Evening patrol. Don't play games, Potter. What are you doing here? Harry noted the fresh blood staining Snape's pant leg. I could ask you the same, Professor. That looks like a nasty bite. Snape's face contorted with anger. Detention, Potter. All week. And 20 points from Ravenclaw for your impertinence. Worth it to confirm my suspicions, Harry replied evenly. Someone's after the Philosopher's Stone. And judging by your injury, it's not just Quirrell. Snape's eyes widened almost imperceptibly before narrowing again. My office. Now. Inside Snape's dungeon office, surrounded by floating specimens in jars, Harry prepared for interrogation. To his surprise, Snape cast several privacy charms before speaking. "What do you know about the stone?" he demanded. "That Dumbledore is using it as bait," Harry replied frankly. "The question is, for whom?" Snape studied him silently for several seconds. "You're not what Dumbledore expected." "Good. He believes the Dark Lord is attempting to return. The stone would provide the means." Harry nodded. "Through Quirrell, most likely. The man reeks of possession magic." Surprise flashed across Snape's face before his mask fell back into place. "And how would you recognize such magic, Potter?" Harry tapped his scar. "Personal experience. The goblins removed a soul fragment from here years ago." Snape actually took a step back. "Impossible." "Evidently not." Harry met his gaze steadily. "Professor, I don't trust Dumbledore, but that doesn't mean I support Voldemort. If he's trying to return, I have every reason to prevent it." A long, tense silence followed. Finally, Snape spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Dark Lord believes in a prophecy connecting you and him. Dumbledore does too." "I'm familiar with it," Harry confirmed. "The goblins have their own prophecies about me. I put limited stock in any of them." "Foolish," Snape said sharply. "Prophecies have power, whether you believe in them or not." "So does preparation," Harry countered. "Which is why I'm investigating the stone's protections now, before Quirrell makes his move." Snape's expression became calculating. "Dumbledore has the situation under control." "Does he?" Harry raised an eyebrow. "Or is he waiting to see what I'll do? Testing the weapon he abandoned and then summoned back?" Something shifted in Snape's eyes, recognition, perhaps even a flicker of respect. "Detention is cancelled," he said abruptly. "But stay away from the third floor. There are contingencies in place." Harry inclined his head slightly. "Understood, Professor." As he turned to leave, Snape added, "And Potter. Watch your back around Quirrell. Some hosts are more willing than others." November brought the first Quidditch match of the season, Gryffindor vs Slytherin. Despite having no particular allegiance to either house, Harry attended with Luna and Neville. "Ravenclaw plays next month against Hufflepuff," Neville explained as they climbed the stands. "Are you going to try out next year, Harry? I bet you'd make a great seeker." Harry shrugged. "Flying's not really my strength." In truth, while he enjoyed flying, Goblin sports involved more weapons and underground obstacle courses than broomsticks and balls. As the match progressed, Harry noticed Quirrell sitting directly behind Snape, his eyes fixed unblinkingly on the Gryffindor Seeker. Moments later, the Seeker's broom began jerking violently, nearly throwing the player off. Harry narrowed his eyes, sensing dark magic at work. He caught Silvertooth's attention and nodded toward the professors. "Jinxing the broom," he murmured. "Quirrell, not Snape. Though Snape appears to be counter-jinxing." Silvertooth slipped away through the crowd. Moments later, a small commotion erupted as Quirrell's turban suddenly caught fire. In the confusion, the jinx broke, and the Gryffindor Seeker regained control. After the match, Harry received a note delivered by School Owl. "Potter, your goblin's interference was unnecessary but effective. The headmaster wishes to speak with you about appropriate boundaries for your security personnel." SS Harry smirked and tucked the note away. The professors were beginning to realize that his goblin guards weren't just for show. That evening, instead of reporting to Dumbledore, Harry used the tunnel to return to the Goblin Kingdom for his weekly council meeting. This time, he brought news that caused significant concern. "Possession magic confirmed," he told the assembled council. "Quirrell is almost certainly hosting Voldemort himself, or a significant portion of him." Director Ragnarok's expression darkened. "This confirms our worst fears." The Dark Lord found a way to anchor his soul to this world. Multiple anchors, Harry corrected. The fragment in my scar couldn't have been the only one. If he's able to possess Quirrell now, he created others. Nagnok looked troubled. Horcruxes are among the darkest magic known. Creating multiple ones would shatter his soul beyond recognition. Which explains his fixation on the Philosopher's Stone, Harry concluded. He needs it to create a proper body. What will you do? Asked Silvermark, who had become the kingdom's head healer since removing Harry's Horcrux. Prevent him from getting the stone, obviously, Harry replied. But also track down any remaining Horcruxes. Without destroying those, stopping him now would only be temporary. This goes beyond your duty as a student, Ragnarok observed. Harry smiled grimly. But not beyond my duty as Goblin King. Voldemort persecuted magical beings during his reign. He'd do the same again if he returned to power. The meeting continued with discussions of strategy and intelligence gathering. Before returning to Hogwarts, Harry visited the Royal Armory to select additional enchanted weapons for his guards. Expecting trouble, asked the armorer as he handed over silver-tipped daggers specifically effective against dark creatures. Always, Harry replied. Better prepared than surprised. As winter descended on Hogwarts, Harry divided his time between classes, research, and monitoring Quirrell's activities. He also cultivated relationships with key students from each house, building a network of information sources throughout the castle. His friendship with Luna and Neville deepened naturally. Luna's unusual perspective often provided insights Harry would have missed, while Neville's knowledge of herbology proved unexpectedly useful for understanding certain magical properties. Hermione Granger eventually joined their study group, her initial wariness of Harry giving way to grudging respect after he helped her perfect a particularly difficult transfiguration technique. Your approach to magic is unorthodox but effective, she admitted during one library session. Where did you learn to channel energy through visualization rather than wand movement? Goblin metalwork requires precise magical visualization, Harry explained. When forging enchanted items, you have to hold the complete magical structure in your mind while physically crafting the object. That sounds incredibly difficult, Neville commented. Harry grinned. My first attempt exploded and singed off my eyebrows. Took weeks to grow back. These moments of normal student interaction provided welcome balance to the darker concerns occupying Harry's mind. December brought confirmation that someone was actively testing the stone's defenses. Hagrid let slip during a casual conversation that the three-headed dog named Fluffy belonged to him, and that music would put the creature to sleep. Shouldn't have told you that, the gamekeeper muttered immediately. Forget I said anything. Harry had also discovered, through careful observation and discreet questioning, the nature of most other protections, Professor Sprout's Devil's Snare, Flitwick's Enchanted Keys, McGonagall's giant chess set, and likely something involving potions from Snape. The Christmas holiday provided an opportunity for extended time in the Goblin Kingdom. While most students returned home, Harry officially remained at Hogwarts but spent most nights underground with his people. On Christmas morning, he was surprised to receive a package containing a silvery invisibility cloak and a note. Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well. The unsigned note triggered immediate suspicion. Harry had Silvertooth deliver the cloak to goblin experts for examination before he would consider using it. Their report confirmed his concerns: standard invisibility cloak with unusual longevity enchantment. Tracking charms detected and removed. Magical signature matches Albus Dumbledore. Another manipulation, Harry muttered, though he kept the cloak after it was cleansed. Such items were rare and potentially useful. More intriguing was a book Luna gave him, a rare copy of Magical Beings and Their Forgotten Rights, that contained detailed accounts of the Goblin rebellions from a surprisingly balanced perspective. It was my mother's, she explained. She believed cooperation between magical beings was the future of wizarding society. Harry was genuinely touched. Thank you, Luna. This means a lot. His return gift to her, a goblin-crafted pendant that revealed invisible creatures, left her speechless with delight. January brought fresh challenges. The Ministry of Magic, increasingly concerned about Harry's goblin connections, dispatched Under-Secretary Dolores Umbridge to evaluate the security situation at Hogwarts. Her arrival created immediate tension. Dressed in revolting pink and speaking in a falsely sweet voice, Umbridge made her prejudices clear from the start. "Mr. Potter," she simpered during their first meeting in Dumbledore's office, "while we appreciate your unique upbringing, the Ministry cannot condone armed non-humans patrolling a school." Harry regarded her coldly. "My guards are here legally under the Hogwarts Charter, Madam Umbridge. As a foreign dignitary, I'm entitled to appropriate security." "Foreign dignitary?" she tittered. "My dear boy, playing pretend games with goblins doesn't constitute actual diplomatic status." "Actually," Dumbledore interjected, looking distinctly uncomfortable with the situation, "Mr. Potter's status has been formally recognized by the Goblin Nation. Under international magical cooperation treaties, we are obligated to honor that recognition." Umbridge's smile tightened. "Headmaster, surely you can't believe that a human child can legitimately rule goblins? It's preposterous. Next, we'll have wizards claiming to be centaur chieftains." "Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant," Harry stated flatly. "The fact remains that I am Goblin King by their laws and magic. My guards stay." "We shall see about that," Umbridge replied with a dangerous glint in her eye. "The minister himself may need to become involved." After she left, Dumbledore sighed heavily. "Harry, while I understand your position, antagonizing the Ministry may not be wise." "I'm not the antagonist here," Harry pointed out. "I'm simply attending school while maintaining my security and dignity." "The wizarding world struggles with change," Dumbledore said carefully. Harry stood to leave. "Then it's time they started adapting." The goblins did when they accepted a human king. Over the next weeks, Umbridge's presence created a stifling atmosphere. She observed classes, interrogated students about Harry, and drafted increasingly restrictive educational decrees that Dumbledore barely managed to delay implementing. The situation came to a head in February when Umbridge attempted to physically remove Iron Fist from a corridor, claiming he was frightening students. The goblin warrior didn't draw his weapon but simply sidestepped her grasp, causing Umbridge to stumble dramatically and claim assault. Harry arrived to find a crowd gathering and Umbridge threatening Iron Fist with arrest. "This creature attacked a Ministry official," she declared, her voice carrying down the corridor. "That's a lie," Harry said clearly, stepping forward. "And I have witnesses." "How dare you accuse me of lying?" Umbridge's face flushed an ugly shade of puce. Harry smiled coldly. "I dare because it's true. And because Goblin Armor records incidents for security purposes." He gestured to a small crystal embedded in Iron Fist's breastplate. "Would you like me to replay what actually happened? Perhaps for the entire student body?" Umbridge faltered, clearly unprepared for technological evidence. "Those recordings can be tampered with, then let's use Veritaserum," Harry suggested. "Or perhaps a pensive review. Professor Dumbledore has one in his office." The gathered students watched with fascination as Umbridge sputtered and backtracked. Finally, she stormed off, promising consequences. News of the confrontation spread quickly through the school, reinforcing Harry's reputation for standing up to authority. Even some Slytherins grudgingly expressed admiration for his handling of the situation. "You embarrassed a Ministry official," Neville commented worriedly that evening. "Won't that cause problems?" "It already has," Harry acknowledged. "But letting her bully my people would cause worse ones." Luna nodded sagely. "Raxperts multiply around people who don't stand up for themselves." "You're remarkably Raxpert-free, Harry." Whether from Luna's mystical creatures or simply the satisfaction of standing his ground, Harry did feel lighter after the confrontation, until an urgent message arrived from the Goblin Kingdom. "Break-in attempted at high-security vault," the coded note read. "Nothing taken. Matches previous attempt at vault containing you-know-what before Hogwarts transfer. The Philosopher's Stone had become a target even before it reached Hogwarts. Harry's suspicions about Quirrell's involvement grew stronger. As spring approached, Harry focused on gathering concrete evidence against Quirrell. During a carefully orchestrated, accidental, collision in a corridor, he managed to brush against the professor's turban, confirming his worst fears. The same dark magical signature as the Horcrux from his scar radiated from beneath the cloth. Meanwhile, through his network of student informants, Harry learned that Hagrid had acquired a dragon egg and was attempting to hatch it in his wooden hut. "That's illegal," Hermione gasped when Harry shared this information with their study group. "And incredibly dangerous. We should tell a professor," Neville suggested nervously. Harry shook his head. "Not yet. I want to know where the egg came from first." A discreet visit to Hagrid's hut revealed more than Harry expected. The gamekeeper, loose-tongued after a few cups of mead, admitted he'd won the egg from a hooded stranger at the Hog's Head pub. Seemed glad to be rid of it, Hagrid explained proudly as the black egg glowed in the fireplace. "Had to make sure I could handle it first, oh, course. Told him after Fluffy, a dragon would be easy." Harry exchanged glances with Silvertooth. "Fluffy? Your three-headed dog? You discussed him with this stranger?" "Well, yeah," Hagrid said, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Professional interest, see? Not many people know how to handle a Cerberus. Told him the trick is knowin' how to calm him. Bit music and Fluffy falls straight to sleep." Harry kept his expression neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in his mind. Did this stranger seem particularly interested in Fluffy? Come to think of it, he did ask what other sorts creatures I look after, Hagrid mused. Very interested in the special ones Dumbledore's got me handling. After leaving Hagrid's hut, Harry went straight to the tunnel entrance. "I need to call an emergency council meeting. Quirrell knows how to get past the first guardian." The following night, Harry's prediction proved correct. While returning from the kitchens after a late study session, he spotted Quirrell slipping toward the third-floor corridor. Instead of confronting him directly, Harry sent Iron Fist to alert Snape while he and Silvertooth followed at a safe distance. Quirrell disappeared inside the forbidden door. Moments later, the sound of a flute drifted into the corridor. "He's putting Fluffy to sleep," Harry whispered. Snape arrived, his black robes billowing. "Potter, I told you to stay away from here." "Quirrell's gone after the stone," Harry explained quickly. "We need to stop him." Snape's face hardened. "I will handle this. You will return to your dormitory immediately. With respect, Professor, if that's Voldemort possessing him, you'll need help." Snape flinched at the name but didn't contradict Harry's assessment. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded curtly. "Stay behind me. Do exactly as I say." They entered to find Fluffy snoring peacefully, a bewitched flute playing itself in the corner. The trapdoor stood open. "He's already through," Snape muttered. Harry peered into the darkness below. "Devil's snare next. We'll need light." Snape looked surprised at his knowledge but didn't comment. Together, they jumped into the darkness, landing on the mass of writhing plants. Snape immediately conjured bluebell flames, causing the plant to recoil and drop them through to the next chamber. They progressed rapidly through the subsequent challenges, Harry's knowledge of the defenses proving invaluable. In the key room, his seeker-like reflexes caught the correct key quickly. At the chess set, Snape revealed unexpected strategic brilliance. They reached the potions challenge to find it already solved, the correct bottle empty. "He's in the final chamber," Snape said grimly. Harry examined the magical flames blocking their path. "This fire isn't just magical, it has a goblin component. I can manipulate it." Before Snape could object, Harry pressed his hands toward the black flames, channeling his hybrid magic. The flames parted reluctantly, creating a narrow passage. Quickly, Harry gasped, the effort clearly straining him. They slipped through into the final chamber to find Quirrell standing before an ornate mirror, the mirror of Erist, according to Dumbledore's notes Harry had discovered. "Potter," Quirrell said without turning, his voice lacking its usual stutter. "And Severus. How predictable." "Step away from the mirror, Quirrell," Snape commanded, wand raised. Quirrell turned slowly, smiling. "I think not. My master wishes to speak with young Potter." To Harry's horror, Quirrell began unwrapping his turban. As the cloth fell away, a terrifying face emerged from the back of Quirrell's head, flat and snake-like, with glowing red eyes. "Harry Potter," hissed Voldemort. "We meet again." Harry felt his scar prickle uncomfortably, not painful as it might have been with the Horcrux still inside, but distinctly unpleasant. "You're weaker than I expected," Harry observed, buying time as he assessed the situation. "Parasitizing a teacher. How the mighty have fallen." Voldemort's eyes narrowed. "Insolent like your father. I see the goblins haven't taught you proper respect." "They taught me plenty," Harry replied, subtly signaling Silvertooth with a finger movement. "Including how to recognize a magical parasite." "Enough talk," Voldemort snarled. "Quirrell, the stone." Quirrell turned back to the mirror, muttering frantically. "I see myself presenting the stone to my master, but I cannot get it." "Use the boy," Voldemort commanded. Quirrell lunged toward Harry, but Snape intercepted with a slashing hex that opened a wound across Quirrell's chest. The possessed professor barely flinched, retaliating with a powerful curse that sent Snape crashing into a pillar. Harry used the distraction to position himself strategically. When Quirrell grabbed him and forced him in front of the mirror, Harry was ready. In the mirror, Harry saw himself holding the stone, then placing it in his pocket. The Real stone materialized against his thigh instantly, exactly as Dumbledore had designed the final protection. "What do you see?" Quirrell demanded. "I see my parents," Harry lied smoothly. "They're alive and well." Voldemort's voice hissed, "He lies. Take him." As Quirrell's hands closed around Harry's throat, something unexpected happened. The professor's skin began to blister and crack where it touched Harry's. "Master, I cannot hold him." Quirrell shrieked in pain. "Then kill him, fool." Quirrell raised his wand, but Harry was faster. He pressed his hands directly against Quirrell's face, channeling not just the love protection his mother had left, but goblin battle magic as well. The combination proved devastating. Quirrell's body began to crumble like sandstone, his screams echoing through the chamber. A dark, smoke-like essence poured from the disintegrating body, coalescing into Voldemort's wraith-like form. "This isn't over, Potter," the spectral figure hissed before fleeing through the walls. Harry collapsed to his knees, exhausted but victorious. The stone sat heavily in his pocket as Silvertooth rushed to his side. "Your Majesty." "I'm all right," Harry assured her, though his hands trembled from magical exertion. "Check on Professor Snape." The potion's master was regaining consciousness, blood trickling from a cut on his temple. "Potter," he groaned. "The Dark Lord, gone for now," Harry confirmed. "And the stone is secure." Snape struggled to his feet. "Dumbledore will be returning from the ministry shortly." He left as soon as he realized the trap had been sprung. Harry's eyes narrowed. He knew this would happen tonight. "The headmaster anticipates many things," Snape replied carefully. "Including using me as bait?" Harry stood, brushing dust from his robes. "Or as a weapon?" Snape didn't answer directly. "What will you do with the stone?" Harry weighed the powerful artifact in his palm. "Return it to Flamel with better protections. It's too dangerous to leave in a school, regardless of Dumbledore's schemes." Footsteps echoed from the entrance as Dumbledore himself arrived, followed by McGonagall and Flitwick. The headmaster's expression shifted from concern to calculated assessment when he saw Harry holding the stone. "Harry, my boy," Dumbledore began, "I see you've had quite the adventure." Not by choice, Harry replied coolly. Your possessed defense professor nearly killed us both. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled sadly. A regrettable situation. I had hoped to return before confrontation became necessary. You knew Quirrell was possessed, Harry stated flatly. You've known all year. A heavy silence fell. Even McGonagall looked shocked. I had suspicions, Dumbledore admitted carefully. Not certainties. Enough certainty to use the stone as bait, Harry countered. Enough to arrange magical protection specifically designed for a first year to bypass. McGonagall gasped. Albus, you didn't. Dumbledore straightened, his grandfatherly facade falling away to reveal the powerful wizard beneath. There are greater concerns at play than you understand, Harry. Like the prophecy? Harry challenged. Or the remaining Horcruxes? Dumbledore's shock was genuine this time. How could you possibly know? The goblins removed one from my scar years ago, Harry interrupted. We've been researching them ever since. For perhaps the first time in decades, Albus Dumbledore appeared genuinely speechless. Harry handed the stone to Silvertooth, who secured it in an enchanted pouch. I'm returning this to Nicholas Flamel personally. If he wishes to entrust it to you again, that's his decision. Harry, Dumbledore said, his voice regaining its authority, I must insist, this isn't a negotiation, Headmaster. Harry's tone mirrored the one he'd used in their first meeting. You've proven you can't be trusted with its security. As he walked past the stunned professors toward the exit, Harry added, when you're ready to share information rather than manipulate people with it, you know where to find me. The final weeks of term passed in a whirlwind of activity. News of Quirrell's unfortunate accident spread throughout the school, though the full truth remained known to only a select few. Harry arranged a secure meeting between Flamel and the Goblin Council, where the ancient alchemist was surprisingly receptive to improved security measures for his creation. After 600 years, one grows weary of theft attempts, Flamel remarked dryly. Your goblin security proposals are most impressive, Your Majesty. The year-end exams presented no challenge for Harry, who achieved top marks in most subjects. Even Snape grudgingly awarded him an outstanding in potions, though the professor remained distant following their confrontation with Voldemort. At the closing feast, Ravenclaw narrowly won the House Cup, thanks largely to points Harry and his study group had earned throughout the year. As Flitwick accepted the cup with delighted squeaks, Harry found himself genuinely proud of his house. You've made real friends here, Nagnock observed during Harry's final visit to the Goblin Kingdom before summer break. That was unexpected. Harry smiled, thinking of Luna's peculiar insights, Neville's quiet determination, and even Hermione's relentless questioning. They see me as Harry first, not just the boy who lived or the Goblin King. Will you miss them over the summer? I've invited them to visit, Harry replied. Luna immediately accepted. Neville needs to convince his grandmother. Hermione. He chuckled. She's already compiled a list of questions about goblin culture. Nagnock looked alarmed. You're bringing humans into the kingdom? Just to the diplomatic quarters, Harry assured him. It's time for small steps toward greater cooperation. The old goblin sighed. The prophecy speaks of uniting the divided. I suppose this is where it begins. On the Hogwarts Express returning to London, Harry shared a compartment with his friends. As the Scottish countryside rolled by, their conversation turned to summer plans. Gran wants me to study family history, Neville said glumly. Apparently I'm not living up to the Longbottom legacy, yet. You stood up to Malfoy when he was bullying those Hufflepuff first years, Harry pointed out. That takes courage. Neville blushed. That was nothing. It wasn't nothing to them, Luna said, glancing up from her upside-down magazine. Sometimes small braveries matter most. Hermione closed her massive history book. Harry, will you be returning next year? There are rumors the Ministry might try to prevent it. Let them try, Harry said with a goblin-like grin. I have diplomatic immunity now, thanks to Madame Umbridge's overreach. Her attempts to restrict me actually forced the Ministry to officially recognize my status to avoid an international incident. Brilliant! Neville exclaimed. As the train pulled into King's Cross, Harry noticed a familiar figure waiting on the platform, Dumbledore, standing apart from the crowd in flamboyant purple robes. "Looks like the headmaster wants a word," Harry observed. "I'll catch up with you all later." After saying goodbye to his friends, Harry approached Dumbledore with Silvertooth and Iron Fist flanking him as always. "Professor," he acknowledged neutrally. "Harry," Dumbledore inclined his head. "I hoped we might clear the air before summer separation." "About?" "I've made mistakes," Dumbledore admitted, surprising Harry with his directness. "My plans for you were presumptuous." Harry waited silently for him to continue. "You've demonstrated capabilities I never anticipated," the headmaster continued. "And knowledge I didn't expect you to acquire for many years." "Knowledge you plan to control," Harry noted. Dumbledore sighed heavily. "For the greater good, yes. I see now that approach was flawed." Harry studied the old wizard carefully. "What do you want, Professor?" "A truce," Dumbledore replied simply. "And perhaps cooperation against our common enemy. Voldemort will return more determined than ever." "He never truly left," Harry corrected. "And yes, he'll try again." He considered the offer. "I'm willing to share information about the Horcruxes if you'll do the same." Hope flickered in Dumbledore's eyes. "You know of more than the one in your scar?" "The Goblins have been researching magical signatures," Harry explained. "We have leads." "This summer, then," Dumbledore proposed. "A meeting between your council and myself." Harry nodded. "I'll arrange it." As he turned to leave, he added, "But understand this, Professor, I'm not your weapon or your pawn. If we work together, it will be as equals." For a moment, the mask of the kindly headmaster slipped, and Harry glimpsed the legendary wizard who had defeated Grindelwald. "You've grown into a remarkable young man, Harry Potter." "I had good teachers," Harry replied. "Just not the ones you chose for me." As he walked away with his goblin guards, Harry felt Dumbledore's gaze following him. The wizarding world had expected a malleable hero, a boy grateful to be rescued from obscurity. Instead, they got a goblin king with his own agenda and power base. The coming years promised to be interesting indeed. Chapter 3, 2 Crowns. "They're still watching the house," Harry muttered, peering through magical goblin-crafted binoculars from his perch on a nearby rooftop. 2 Order members under invisibility cloaks, and what looks like a Ministry observer across the street. Silvertooth shrugged beside him, her armor gleaming in the summer moonlight. "Let them watch an empty house. The Muggles Dumbledore placed you with haven't lived there in years." Harry lowered the binoculars with a smirk. "You'd think they'd have figured that out by now. The Goblins replaced them with glamoured agents 3 years ago." "Wizards rarely look beyond surface appearances," Silvertooth replied. "Ready to move?" Harry nodded, securing the binoculars in his enchanted pack. The summer after his first year at Hogwarts had been busy with diplomatic missions, strategy sessions, and tracking down leads on Voldemort's Horcruxes. Tonight's mission was personal, gathering intelligence on the Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore's secret organization. "Remember," Harry whispered as they prepared to depart, "we're just observing the meeting location. No engagement." Silvertooth grinned, showing pointed teeth. "Spoilsport." They moved silently across the rooftops of Privet Drive, leaving behind the Order members still diligently guarding a house where Harry Potter hadn't lived since age 4. Their destination was across London, a townhouse in Grimmauld Place that Goblin intelligence had identified as a Black family property now serving as Order headquarters. As they travelled via Goblin tunnels beneath London, Harry reflected on the changes the past months had brought. His confrontation with Quirrell/Voldemort at the end of the school year had accelerated many plans. Dumbledore had reluctantly agreed to share information about Horcruxes, though Harry suspected the old wizard was still holding back crucial details. The Goblin Council had been working overtime, following magical traces and ancient accounts that might lead to the remaining soul fragments. Meanwhile, Harry had started reaching out to other magical beings, centaurs, house elves, even a few progressive werewolves, building alliances for the conflict he knew was coming. They emerged from a concealed tunnel entrance 3 streets away from Grimmauld Place. Harry immediately sensed the heavy magical protection surrounding the area. Fidelius charm, he murmured, recognizing the distinctive magical signature. We won't be able to see the headquarters without being told its location by the secret keeper. We don't need to see inside, Silvertooth reminded him. Just confirm the location and identify who's coming and going. They found a shadowed alcove with good sightlines to the street. For the next hour, they watched Order members arrive, some openly, others disguised or disillusioned. Moody, Shacklebolt, 3 Weasleys, Harry counted quietly. McGonagall just arrived. And there's Snape. The potions master looked particularly sour as he strode purposefully toward what, to Harry and Silvertooth, appeared to be empty space between numbers 11 and 13. He doesn't look happy to be here, Silvertooth observed. Snape never looks happy anywhere, Harry replied with a small smile. But he's our best potential source inside the Order. After confirming the last arrivals, they retreated to the tunnels. Harry checked his enchanted pocket watch, a birthday gift from Nagnok that tracked multiple time zones, including Goblin Standard Time, deep beneath the earth. We've got 3 hours before the council meeting, he noted. Want to make a quick stop? Silvertooth raised an eyebrow. Where to? Diagon Alley. I've been thinking about something. 20 minutes later, they stood invisible outside Ollivander's, the ancient wand-maker's shop, dark and quiet in the late evening. You already have a wand, Silvertooth pointed out. Harry nodded. His current wand, Holly and Phoenix Feather, worked adequately, but never felt quite right. I need something that better channels both wizard and goblin magic. Something custom. Ollivander doesn't do custom work. Not for wizards, Harry agreed. But I'm not just a wizard. He knocked on the door in a specific pattern, 3 quick taps, 2 slow, 3 quick again. After a long moment, a light appeared inside and the ancient wandmaker himself opened the door a crack. Most unusual hour for a visitor, Ollivander murmured, his silvery eyes glinting in the darkness. But then, King Harry Potter has never been usual, has he? Harry didn't bother asking how Ollivander knew who was beneath the invisibility magic. The wand-maker had always possessed strange perceptions. I need your expertise, Mr. Ollivander. May we come in? The old man stepped back, allowing them entry. Inside, the shop felt different at night, the thousands of wand boxes creating strange shadows in the dim light, the very air thick with dormant magic. You seek a new wand, Ollivander stated, studying Harry intently. Your current one serves but does not satisfy. It resists goblin magic, Harry explained. I need something that accommodates both magical traditions. Ollivander's eyes gleamed with professional interest. In all my years, a fascinating challenge. He moved deeper into the shop. Follow me. They passed through a hidden door into Ollivander's workshop, a space few wizards had ever seen. Workbenches lined the walls, covered with exotic woods, magical cores, and tools so specialized Harry couldn't guess their purposes. The difficulty, Ollivander mused, lies in the fundamental opposition between wizard and goblin magic. Wizards direct and command magic, goblins negotiate and harmonize with it. I need a bridge between approaches, Harry said. Ollivander nodded thoughtfully. Yes, a bridge. He began pulling materials from various drawers and cabinets. I will need something personal from you, something that carries your unique magical signature. Without hesitation, Harry removed a small knife from his boot, the first item he'd forged himself during his training with the goblins. Will this work? Ollivander took it reverently. Perfect. The metal has absorbed your magical essence through creation and use. He examined the blade. Goblin silver with traces of wizard gold. Already a bridge of sorts. For the next 2 hours, Harry watched in fascination as Ollivander worked. Unlike the clinical matching process used for regular customers, this was true wand crafting, an art form rarely practiced anymore. The wand maker combined rare woods, selecting a core of phoenix feather, like your current wand, but freely given rather than harvested, and incorporating melted fragments of Harry's knife into the design. Throughout the process, Ollivander muttered to himself, occasionally asking Harry to channel specific types of magic to test reactions between components. Silvertooth watched with undisguised curiosity. Goblins rarely witnessed wand creation up close. Almost complete, Ollivander announced finally. The last step requires your active participation, Your Majesty. He placed the nearly finished wand on a special stand and gestured for Harry to place his hands on either side without touching it. Now, channel both aspects of your magic simultaneously, wizard through your right hand, goblin through your left. Harry closed his eyes, concentrating. He'd been practicing this difficult technique for months, separating the different magical signatures that now coexisted within him. Golden light emanated from his right palm, the familiar warm flow of wizard magic. From his left came a deeper, more resonant silver glow, the earthy power of goblin magic. The wand between his hands began to vibrate, rising slightly from the stand. The two magical energies spiraled around it, initially repelling each other before slowly, reluctantly intertwining. "Perfect," Ollivander whispered. "Now grasp it." Harry's fingers closed around the wand. Immediate warmth spread up his arm, but unlike the contained spark he'd felt with his original wand, this sensation flowed through his entire body, a perfect circuit of magical energy. The wand's appearance had transformed during the final bonding. The handle remained wood, a rich, dark walnut, but the upper 2/3 had become a strange silvery gold material with faint runic patterns that shifted when viewed from different angles. 11¼ inches, walnut and phoenix feather, with a goblin silver gold alloy integration, Ollivander declared proudly. The first true hybrid wand created in over 8 centuries. Harry tested it with a simple levitation charm. The feather he targeted not only rose smoothly but took on a metallic sheen, demonstrating both magical traditions working in harmony. "It's perfect," Harry said, genuinely impressed. "What do I owe you?" Ollivander waved away the question. "Consider it a research opportunity. I ask only that you visit occasionally to report on its performance." His ancient eyes twinkled. "And perhaps allow me to document its creation for my private records." As they prepared to leave, Ollivander added, "A word of caution, Your Majesty. That wand will produce magic unlike anything the wizarding world has seen in generations. Use it wisely, and be prepared for those who will fear its potential." The Goblin High Council chamber buzzed with activity when Harry arrived. Maps covered the obsidian table, magical artifacts gleamed from pedestals around the room, and goblin experts from various departments waited with reports. This wasn't a regular governance meeting but a war council. "My king," Director Ragnarok greeted him formally. "We have developments." Harry took his seat at the head of the table, Silvertooth standing at his right shoulder. "Proceed." Ironclaw, head of intelligence, stepped forward. "We've traced the magical signature from the diary Horcrux recovered from Malfoy Manor." He indicated a glowing map of Britain with several pulsing points of light. 5 distinct resonances matching the original soul fragments pattern. Harry studied the map. "Confirming our suspicion of multiple Horcruxes. Locations? One at Hogwarts itself," Ironclaw reported. "One in what appears to be a heavily warded wizard dwelling. One in Bellatrix Lestrange's Gringotts vault, under our very noses," Ragnarok growled. "One in a seaside cave with extensive blood-based protections, and one, moving." Harry frowned. "Moving? A living container?" "Possibly," Ironclaw admitted. "The signature is erratic but distinct." Nagnok, who had been studying ancient texts at a side table, joined the conversation. "This matches historical accounts of the darkest wizards. 7 is magically significant, 6 external containers plus the original soul fragment. And I was the accidental 7th, Harry concluded grimly. Does Dumbledore know about these locations? Gornak, the council's diplomatic liaison, consulted his notes. He's acknowledged awareness of the diary and has theories about the others, but claims to be still searching. Based on our intelligence assets within the Order of the Phoenix, he has not shared the full extent of his knowledge with his followers. Typical, Harry muttered. Despite their supposed truce, Dumbledore continued playing his cards close to the chest. What about the reconstruction project? This question was directed to Silvermark, who now headed a specialized magical research division. She activated a projection sphere, showing a swirling mass of dark energy contained within multiple layers of goblin wards. We've successfully combined the soul fragment extracted from your scar with residual energy from the destroyed diary, she explained. By analyzing their magical structure, we've identified a critical weakness in the Horcrux creation process. The projection zoomed in, showing microscopic fractures in the dark energies pattern. Each time Voldemort split his soul, it became more unstable, Silvermark continued. The later Horcruxes are particularly vulnerable to certain magical frequencies. She looked up at Harry. Including the unique resonance of your hybrid magic. This was potentially game-changing information. You're saying I specifically can destroy them more easily? With the right focus, yes, Silvermark confirmed. We've designed a specialized tool based on this principle. At her gesture, an attendant brought forward a cloth-wrapped object. Silvermark carefully unveiled it, revealing a goblin-crafted dagger with an unusual curved blade. Unlike traditional weapons, this one seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Forged from meteorite iron infused with basilisk venom and phoenix tears, she explained. The opposing magical forces create the exact frequency needed to disrupt Horcrux stability. Harry picked it up carefully, feeling the weapon's magic resonating with his own. Impressive work. There's more, Ragnarok interjected, his expression unusually grave. Our archival research has uncovered disturbing patterns. He nodded to Grimclaw, once Harry's opponent, now a trusted advisor after their combat resolution years ago. The scarred goblin activated another projection, this one showing a timeline stretching back centuries. We identified magical disruption patterns across recorded history, Grimclaw explained. Goblin rebellions, wizard wars, giant conflicts, centaur territoriality spikes, all seemingly separate events. The projection highlighted dozens of historical conflicts in different colors. But when mapped against magical ley line activity, Grimclaw continued, overlaying a new pattern, a clear correlation emerges. Harry leaned forward, studying the data. These conflicts all coincide with surges in magical power along specific ley lines. Not just any ley lines, Nagnok added seriously. Those connected to 7 specific nexus points. He touched the projection, highlighting these points in glowing red. Points that, when connected. The projection traced lines between the points, forming a familiar symbol. The Deathly Hallows, Harry whispered, recognizing the triangle, circle, and line. But what does this mean? Nagnok's expression was grim. We believe someone, or something, has been systematically engineering conflicts between magical beings for centuries, harvesting the magical energy released during these wars. For what purpose? Silvertooth asked from behind Harry. Power, Ragnarok stated flatly. The kind of power that could sustain an unnaturally extended life. Harry's mind raced, connecting pieces of information. You think there's a third player in this conflict? Not just Voldemort and Dumbledore, but someone manipulating both sides. The evidence suggests it, Grimclaw confirmed. And based on energy harvesting patterns, they're preparing for something major. Something that requires more magical conflict than ever before. Which explains why tensions between magical beings have been rising again, Harry realized. The increased ministry restrictions on goblins, the werewolf segregation laws, the centaur territory disputes, all happening simultaneously isn't coincidence. Nagnok nodded solemnly. We believe this entity has been influencing Voldemort's actions, perhaps even Dumbledore's, to create maximum conflict. Harry paced the chamber, processing this revelation. This changes everything. We're not just fighting Voldemort, we're being manipulated into a larger conflict that feeds something else entirely. The question remains, Ragnarok said, do we inform Dumbledore? Harry considered this carefully. Not yet. First, we need more concrete evidence. And we need to approach other magical beings directly. He turned to Gornak. Prepare diplomatic envoys to the centaur herds, the mere-people communities, and representatives of the House Elves. The elves have no formal governance structure, Gornak pointed out. Contact Dobby, Harry instructed. He's been organizing an underground network since I helped free him from the Malfoys last year. Harry had encountered the abused house elf during a covert mission to retrieve the diary Horcrux from Malfoy Manor. Liberating Dobby had been an impromptu decision that proved unexpectedly valuable as the grateful elf became an enthusiastic intelligence source. What about the werewolves? Silvertooth asked. I'll speak with Remus Lupin personally, Harry decided. He's in Dumbledore's order but has werewolf connections independent of wizard politics. Harry studied the map showing Horcrux locations. We need to retrieve these before Voldemort realizes what we know. Ironclaw, prepare specialized teams for each location. I'll personally lead the Hogwarts operation when term begins. The council spent another hour refining plans and assigning responsibilities. As the meeting concluded, Nagnok pulled Harry aside. There's one more matter, Your Majesty. A personal one. Harry raised an eyebrow. Go on. Nagnok handed him an ancient scroll sealed with black wax. We completed the translation of the original prophecy, the one made to the Goblin nation 8 centuries ago. The full text contains elements we didn't previously understand. Harry broke the seal and unrolled the parchment. The translation was written in a combination of English and gobbledygook. When darkness divides the magical kind and ancient enemies rise once more, a child shall come of 2 bloodlines, neither fully one nor other but both and more. The stone speaker, the metal bender, bridge between worlds long sundered, shall wear 2 crowns upon one head, uniting the living with the long-forgotten dead. Beware the one who feeds on strife, who sows discord from the shadows tall, for only the dual-crowned child can break the cycle of magical fall. When 7 points of power align, and blood of enemies soak sacred ground, the eternal harvester shall emerge at last, unless the bridge stands firm, to all beings bound. Harry read it twice, a chill running down his spine. The one who feeds on strife. The eternal harvester, this confirms your theory. Nagnok nodded grimly. And suggests you are specifically destined to confront this entity. 2 crowns upon one head, Harry quoted. 1 goblin, 1, what? I don't have a second crown. Perhaps not yet, Nagnok replied cryptically. But prophecies often reveal themselves in unexpected ways. Harry carefully rolled the parchment. Keep researching this eternal harvester. I want everything we can find, historical appearances, weaknesses, methods. As he prepared to leave, Nagnok asked quietly, will you tell your wizard friends about this? Harry paused. Luna and Neville arrive tomorrow for their visit. I trust them. It's time they knew what we're really facing. Luna Lovegood stepped into the Goblin diplomatic reception chamber with the same dreamy nonchalance she might enter a classroom, while Neville Longbottom followed with wide-eyed wonder. The architecture uses sacred geometry principles, Luna observed, studying the vaulted ceiling. Very effective for channeling earth magic. Neville seemed too overwhelmed to speak, taking in the goblin guards, the gleaming metal decorations, and the enchanted crystals illuminating the space. Harry grinned at their reactions. Welcome to the Goblin Nation, or at least the parts we let outsiders see. Luna drifted toward a particularly complex wall carving. These tell your history, don't they? But not the version wizards know. The unaltered version, Harry confirmed. Wizard historians have a habit of editing inconvenient truths. Neville finally found his voice. This is incredible, Harry. I can't believe we're actually here. Gran nearly had a fit when I told her where I was going. But she let you come, Harry noted. Neville straightened slightly. I didn't exactly give her a choice. Said it was an important diplomatic opportunity that would reflect well on our family. Harry raised an eyebrow, impressed by his friend's assertiveness. Well played. The magic feels different here, Luna commented, hands hovering near but not touching a glowing crystal formation. Older, somehow. More connected. Goblin magic works with the earth rather than imposing upon it, Harry explained. Come on, there's someone I want you to meet before we talk business. He led them deeper into the diplomatic quarter to a comfortable meeting room where Nagnok waited. The elderly goblin had specifically requested to meet Harry's wizard friends, curious about the humans who had earned his trust. Luna, Neville, this is Nagnok, my mentor, teacher, and the closest thing I have to a father. Nagnok inclined his head slightly, a significant gesture from a high-ranking goblin to young wizards. Luna surprised everyone by responding with a perfect goblin greeting gesture, touching her heart, forehead, and then extending her hand palm up. Honor to your gold and strength to your clan, she said in passable gobbledygook. Nagnok's eyebrows shot up. You speak our language? Only a little, she replied, switching back to English. Daddy published an article on goblin cultural practices 5 years ago. The ministry tried to suppress it, but we have quite a few goblin subscribers. The Quibbler, Nagnok said with dawning recognition. Yes, I recall that piece. Unusually accurate for wizard journalism. Neville, not to be outdone, attempted a formal bow. Thank you for welcoming us to your home, sir. And for taking care of Harry all these years. He has brought honor to our nation, Nagnok replied, studying Neville thoughtfully. The Longbottom line has roots in earth magic, does it not? Neville looked surprised. Yes, our family has always had a strong connection to herbology and soil magic. I thought so. I sense it in your magical signature. Nagnok turned to Harry. You choose your allies well, my king. After refreshments and some lighter conversation, Harry guided them to a secure planning room where Silvertooth had prepared their briefing materials. What I'm about to share goes beyond Hogwarts politics or even Voldemort, Harry began seriously. It involves a threat almost no one knows exists, something that's been manipulating magical conflicts for centuries. For the next hour, Harry outlined everything, the Horcruxes, the pattern of engineered conflicts, the mysterious entity they were calling the Eternal Harvester, and both prophecies concerning Harry himself. To their credit, neither Luna nor Neville interrupted, absorbing the information with increasingly grave expressions. When Harry finished, he waited for their reactions. That explains the Rotfong conspiracy, Luna said finally. Daddy always said the ministry was being manipulated from the shadows, but even he didn't realize how deep it went. Neville looked pale but determined. So Voldemort is just a puppet? Being used to create conflict? Not exactly a puppet, Harry clarified. More like he's being subtly influenced. His own ambitions and prejudices make him the perfect tool for generating maximum discord. And Dumbledore? Neville asked. I'm not sure, Harry admitted. He may be manipulated too, or he might suspect something but is playing his own long game. Luna tapped the map showing the nexus points. 7 points forming the Deathly Hallows symbol, that suggests the Harvester is connected to death somehow. We thought the same, Harry confirmed. The goblins have legends about a wizard who cheated death and was cursed to feed on magical conflict. It might be metaphorical, but magical legends often have truth at their core, Neville finished. He straightened in his chair. What can we do to help? Harry smiled at his friend's immediate acceptance and support. For now, information gathering. Luna, your father's publication connections could help us monitor unusual magical disturbances without alerting the ministry. She nodded enthusiastically. Daddy has correspondents even in the Department of Mysteries. They think they're submitting to our conspiracy theory column, but they're actually quite reliable sources. Neville, your family has connections with old wizarding families who might have historical records not available to the public or even to Hogwarts. I can search our family library, Neville agreed. Gran's always saying I should take more interest in our heritage anyway. Harry unrolled a map of Hogwarts. When we return to school, we'll need to locate and retrieve the Horcrux hidden there. Based on the magical signature, it's somewhere in the castle's 7th floor. The room of requirement, Luna said immediately. Both boys looked at her in surprise. It's a hidden room that appears when you have need of it, she explained. Daddy mentioned it in his Hogwarts article years ago. The house elves call it the come and go room. Harry made a mental note to stop being surprised by Luna's random knowledge bombs. That would be the perfect hiding place. We'll investigate as soon as term starts. As they continued planning, Harry felt a surge of gratitude for these friends who accepted his dual nature and complicated destiny without question. In the wizarding world, he was still often viewed as a curiosity or potential political asset. Only here, with true friends and his goblin family, could he be fully himself. Summer transitioned to autumn, and Harry returned to Hogwarts for his second year with renewed purpose. Beyond the Horcrux hunt and investigating the Harvester, he had another mission, building bridges between magical beings, starting with his fellow students. This year will be different, he told Silvertooth as their entourage approached Hogwarts gates. Last year was about establishing my independence from Dumbledore. This year is about creating alliances. Unlike his dramatic first arrival, Harry opted for a more subtle entrance this time, though subtle was relative when accompanied by armored goblin guards. As they entered the Great Hall for the welcome feast, Harry noted the changes in how he was perceived. Fewer students stared in fear, many nodded respectfully or even waved. At the Ravenclaw table, Luna saved him a seat, wearing what appeared to be radish earrings and a necklace of butterbeer corks. For protection against Nargles, she explained seriously when he asked. Effective magical thinking, Harry replied, recognizing the intent behind her unusual accessories. Goblin warding often used symbolic objects as focus points, not so different from Luna's approach, just more conventionally accepted. Dumbledore's welcome speech included a pointed reference to building bridges between all magical traditions, while looking directly at Harry. The headmaster had honored their truce over the summer, sharing some information about Voldemort's past while Harry provided limited insights from goblin research. Their relationship remained cautiously respectful, neither fully trusting the other, but recognizing the value of selective cooperation. He's still not telling us everything, Harry murmured to Luna. Of course not, she replied serenely. He's been keeping secrets for over a century. Hard habit to break. The first few weeks of term passed in a blur of classes, research, and clandestine meetings. Harry, Luna, and Neville, joined occasionally by Hermione Granger, whose analytical mind proved useful despite not being fully briefed on their mission, focused on locating the room of requirement. They found it on a rainy October evening, discovering that pacing 3 times before a blank wall while focusing on their need would cause a door to appear. Inside was a cathedral-sized room filled with thousands of hidden items accumulated over centuries. This could take forever, Neville groaned, surveying the massive space. Harry shook his head, removing a small crystal from his pocket, a goblin detection device attuned to Horcrux energy. We have an advantage. The crystal pulsed faintly, growing warmer as Harry moved through the cluttered pathways. After 30 minutes of following its guidance, they stood before a tarnished tiara sitting atop a discolored bust. Ravenclaw's diadem, Luna whispered. It's been lost for centuries. Harry held the detection crystal near the tiara, which triggered an instant, violent reaction. The crystal glowed blood red and emitted a high-pitched whine. Definitely a Horcrux, Harry confirmed grimly. And a powerful one. Can you destroy it here? Neville asked nervously. Harry considered the question. Too risky. This room contains too many unknown magical items that could react badly. He carefully levitated the diadem into a specially warded container. I'll take it to the goblins. They have a secure destruction facility. That night, Harry used the secret tunnel to transport the Horcrux to the Goblin Kingdom, where Silvermark's team waited with specialized equipment. The containment field is ready, she informed him as technicians in protective gear prepared the ritual space. Harry placed the container in the center of a complex runic circle. I want to destroy this one personally. Silvermark looked concerned. The magical backlash could be dangerous, Your Majesty. I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with, Harry insisted. And my hybrid magic gives me better protection than most. After additional safety measures were implemented, Harry stood before the open container, the Horcrux detecting dagger in hand. The diadem seemed to pulse with malevolent awareness, whispering unintelligible words that scraped against his consciousness. Harry closed his eyes, centering himself in the unique confluence of goblin and wizard magic that defined him. When he opened them again, his green-gold eyes glowed with power. He raised the dagger. For Ravenclaw, whose legacy you corrupted, he said clearly, then plunged the weapon into the center of the diadem. A terrible scream erupted from the Horcrux, not just audible but magically projected, battering against the containment wards. Black ichor poured from the damaged relic, forming shapes that lunged toward Harry before disintegrating against the protective barriers. The dagger grew hot in Harry's hand, absorbing the released dark energy. Through their magical connection, Harry sensed the Horcrux fighting destruction, trying to latch onto his own life force as its anchor point failed. Drawing on his goblin training, Harry channeled earth magic through his feet, grounding himself against the magical assault. Simultaneously, he pushed wizard defensive magic through the dagger, creating a circuit that trapped the Horcrux energy between opposing forces. With a final wail, the dark essence collapsed in on itself, leaving the diadem smoking but intact, its corrupting presence gone. Harry staggered back, drained but exhilarated. It worked. Silvermark approached cautiously, scanning the diadem with detection instruments. Completely cleansed, she confirmed. And the dagger absorbed some of the released energy, making it even more effective against the remaining Horcruxes. Harry examined the now purified relic. Ravenclaw's diadem, restored. It should be returned to Hogwarts, its rightful home. After thorough examination, Silvermark amended. We may learn more about how Voldemort created the Horcruxes by studying the integration points. That night, Harry penned a carefully worded letter to Dumbledore, confirming the destruction of an item of interest, without specifying details. The headmaster would understand the meaning while communications remained secure from potential interception. As autumn deepened toward winter, Harry balanced multiple responsibilities, classes, Horcrux hunting, diplomatic missions, and a new initiative to bridge divides at Hogwarts itself. With Luna and Neville's help, he established an unofficial, magical traditions, study group that met weekly in an unused classroom. What began with just a handful of curious Ravenclaws quickly expanded to include students from all houses, even a few hesitant Slytherins. Wizard magic focuses on commanding through wands, Harry explained during one session, demonstrating the standard levitation charm. But other magical traditions work differently. He performed the same spell using goblin techniques, wandless, with a focus on negotiating with the object's inherent magical properties. The feather rose more slowly but with greater stability. Both approaches have strengths and weaknesses, he concluded. Neither is inherently superior, just different. These sessions attracted attention from both students and faculty. Professor Flitwick became an enthusiastic supporter, occasionally joining to offer his own perspective as someone with mixed goblin-wizard heritage. Even Professor McGonagall attended once, observing with thinly disguised interest before commenting that alternative magical theory has academic merit when properly contextualized. Not everyone appreciated these efforts. Professor Snape remained coldly skeptical, while Draco Malfoy and his cohort mockingly referred to it as Potter's Creature Club. More concerning was a letter from the ministry expressing inquiries about unauthorized magical instruction at Hogwarts. "They're getting nervous," Harry told his council during a weekend meeting. "The idea of different magical beings sharing knowledge threatens the wizard-dominant power structure." "As intended," Ragnarok observed with a grim smile. "How are your diplomatic efforts progressing?" Harry activated a map showing magical communities throughout Britain. "The centaurs remain cautious but receptive. Forenza has become our primary contact within the Forbidden Forest herd. The Mere-people of the Black Lake have agreed to information sharing. Dobby's House Elf network continues to grow, they're our best intelligence source within wizard households." "And the werewolves?" Nagnok prompted. "Mixed results," Harry admitted. "Remus Lupin is helping make connections, but Fenrir Greyback's faction remains loyal to Voldemort. There's a growing third group, however, led by a woman named Elena Winters who rejects both ministry restrictions and Voldemort's promises." Ironclaw, who had been analyzing intelligence reports, looked up. "Speaking of Voldemort, our sources indicate increased activity among known Death Eaters. They appear to be searching for something." "The Horcruxes?" Ragnarok suggested. "Possibly, though they lack coordination that would suggest direct orders from Voldemort himself." Harry considered this information. He's still too weak to maintain consistent control. The failed possession of Quirrell depleted him severely. "Which gives us time to find the remaining Horcruxes," Nagnok concluded. "Have you told Dumbledore about the Harvester?" Silvertooth asked quietly. Harry shook his head. "Not yet. I need more concrete evidence first, something even he can't dismiss as goblin superstition." The conversation shifted to updates on Horcrux locations. Teams had confirmed the existence of one in the Lestrange Vault at Gringotts, a golden cup bearing Hufflepuff's crest. Retrieving it legally was impossible due to strict goblin banking laws, but they were developing alternative approaches that wouldn't violate treaty obligations. The Seaside Cave Horcrux remained challenging due to its extensive blood-based protections, while the moving Horcrux continued to evade precise location. As the meeting concluded, Nagnok presented Harry with disturbing news from goblin researchers examining historical records. "We've identified a pattern of magical surges occurring approximately every 50 years, he explained, showing a timeline spanning centuries. Each surge coincides with a major magical conflict and a significant increase in deaths among magical beings." "The Harvester feeding," Harry murmured. "Yes, but there's more." Nagnok highlighted the most recent points on the timeline. "The intervals have been shortening, 40 years, then 30. Based on this progression and current magical energy readings. It's happening again now," Harry realized. "The Harvester is preparing for another feeding cycle." Nagnok nodded grimly. "And this time, the energy requirements appear much larger. We believe whatever ritual the Harvester performs with this collected energy is building towards something unprecedented." Harry studied the projection. "The Nexus points, are they all in Britain?" 5 are, including one directly beneath Hogwarts. The remaining 2 are in Albania and Egypt." "Albania," Harry repeated, a connection forming. "Where Voldemort was rumored to be hiding after his fall." "Precisely," Nagnok confirmed. "We believe the Harvester may have influenced his choice of refuge to keep him near a power source." Harry paced the chamber, thinking rapidly. "We need to secure these Nexus points or at least monitor them. If the Harvester needs all 7 for their ritual, denying access to even one could disrupt their plans." "The Hogwarts Nexus is most concerning," Ragnarok noted. "It's directly beneath the school, where hundreds of young witches and wizards concentrate their magical practice daily." "A perfect energy source," Harry agreed grimly. "I'll need to find a way to access it." "There may be an entrance through the Chamber of Secrets," Nagnok suggested, referencing ancient goblin maps of the castle's foundations. Harry raised an eyebrow. "Slytherin's legendary chamber? Most wizards consider it a myth." "Most wizards consider many true things myths," Nagnok replied dryly. Our records indicate it exists and connects to older passages beneath the castle, possibly predating Hogwarts itself. But only a Parselmouth can access it, Harry pointed out. And with the Horcrux removed from my scar, I lost that ability. Silver Mark, who had joined the meeting late, interjected, not necessarily. The connection was severed, but your magical core may have adapted to the ability during your formative years. With the right stimulus, you might reactivate it. This possibility opened new strategic options. Harry left the meeting with a research assignment for himself, investigating methods to recover or simulate Parseltongue abilities. December brought heavy snow to Hogwarts and an unexpected visitor. Harry was returning from an evening practice session with his study group when Professor McGonagall intercepted him in the corridor. "Mr. Potter, the headmaster requests your presence immediately. There's been an incident." Her tight expression suggested something serious. Harry nodded to Silvertooth, who accompanied him to the familiar Gargoyle Guardian. Acid Pops, McGonagall provided the password. In Dumbledore's office, Harry found not only the headmaster but also a haggard-looking Remus Lupin and a wizard Harry recognized as Kingsley Shacklebolt, a high-ranking Auror. "Harry, thank you for coming," Dumbledore greeted him, looking graver than usual. "We have troubling news that concerns both our separate and joint efforts." Harry took the offered seat. "What's happened?" Lupin spoke first, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "The werewolf faction led by Elena Winters was attacked last night. Their entire settlement in northern Scotland, destroyed." "Death Eaters?" Harry asked, though something in Lupin's expression suggested otherwise. "No," Lupin replied heavily. "Something else." The survivors described a single attacker, a hooded figure who wielded magic unlike anything they'd seen. Not killing curses, but something that drained them. Harry's blood ran cold. "Drained how?" "Magically," Shacklebolt answered. "Victims weren't physically injured but left nearly squibs, their magical cores damaged almost beyond recovery." Harry exchanged a significant look with Silvertooth. This matched their theories about the Harvester's feeding methods. "Why attack werewolves specifically?" Harry asked, though he was forming his own conclusions. "Elena's group was unique," Lupin explained. "They were developing new techniques to control transformations without Wolfsbane potion, combining ancient Celtic magic with modern approaches. Creating their own path independent of both Ministry and Voldemort." "A third option," Harry murmured. "A potential bridge between magical communities." Dumbledore studied Harry carefully. "You don't seem entirely surprised by this information, Harry." It was time. Harry took a deep breath. "Because it fits a pattern we've been tracking. This wasn't just a random attack or even something ordered by Voldemort. It was calculated to eliminate a group working toward magical cooperation." For the next hour, Harry shared the Goblin research about the Harvester, the pattern of engineered conflicts, and the nexus points forming the Deathly Hallows symbol. He carefully omitted some details, particularly about Horcrux locations and certain Goblin magical techniques, but provided enough information to make his case. When he finished, Dumbledore looked troubled but not dismissive. "This theory aligns with certain anomalies I've observed over the years. Conflicts that escalated beyond rational explanation, hatred that seemed unnaturally persistent." "You've suspected something similar?" Harry asked, surprised. "Not this specific entity, but I've long believed there were forces working from the shadows," Dumbledore admitted. "I attributed much to Voldemort's influence, but some events preceded even him." Shacklebolt looked skeptical. "An immortal being feeding on magical conflict for centuries? It sounds implausible," Harry suggested. "No more so than Horcruxes or the Deathly Hallows themselves." Dumbledore's head snapped up at the mention of the Hallows. "You know of them?" "The Goblins have extensive historical records," Harry replied carefully, noting Dumbledore's intense reaction. "Including references to 3 legendary objects created to master death." A heavy silence fell. Harry sensed he'd touched on something deeply personal to Dumbledore, but now wasn't the time to explore that connection. What matters, Harry continued, is that this entity, this harvester, appears to be accelerating its activities. The werewolf attack is likely just the beginning. I agree, Dumbledore said finally. This information changes our strategic approach considerably. They spent the next hour developing a joint response plan. Lupin would work with surviving werewolves to establish safe houses. Shacklebolt would quietly investigate similar incidents within Ministry jurisdiction. Dumbledore would research historical references to similar magical drainings. Harry committed to continuing the Goblin investigation and monitoring the nexus points. We should meet regularly to share findings, he suggested. Full transparency will be essential. Dumbledore's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Indeed, Harry. Full transparency. Neither fully trusted the other's definition of full, but the alliance was a necessary step forward. As they prepared to leave, Dumbledore asked Harry to stay behind for a moment. Once they were alone, the headmaster's demeanor changed subtly, less the school administrator, more the powerful wizard who had defeated Grindelwald. Harry, regarding the Horcruxes, your goblin methods of destruction appear remarkably efficient. They are, Harry confirmed without elaboration. I've located what I believe is another, Dumbledore continued, opening a drawer to reveal a black ring with a cracked stone. This once belonged to Voldemort's maternal family. Harry immediately sensed residual dark magic from the object, though the Horcrux itself appeared destroyed. You attempted to destroy it yourself. Dumbledore held up his right hand, which Harry now noticed appeared blackened and withered. Not without consequence. The ring carried additional curses beyond the Horcrux itself. May I? Harry asked, reaching toward the ring. Dumbledore hesitated before nodding. Harry didn't touch the ring directly but hovered his hand above it, sensing its magical structure. What he felt surprised him. Beneath the dark residue lay a much older, more fundamental magic. This stone, he said slowly, it's not ordinary. No, Dumbledore agreed. I believe it to be the resurrection stone from the Hallows legend. Harry looked up sharply. The stone that recalls spirits from death. The very same. Voldemort likely never realized its true significance, valuing it only as a family heirloom suitable for containing his soul fragment. And the other Hallows? Harry asked carefully. Do they also exist? Dumbledore's gaze was calculating. The invisibility cloak I returned to you is believed to be the third Hallow. And the Elder Wand. He touched his own wand briefly. Has its own complicated history. The implications were staggering. If all three Hallows exist, and the Harvester's ritual involves nexus points forming the Hallows symbol, then the connection is unlikely to be coincidental, Dumbledore finished. Another piece of our emerging puzzle. As Harry left the office, his mind raced with new connections and possibilities. The Deathly Hallows weren't just legend but physical objects with immense magical significance, objects potentially connected to both the Harvester's plan and Harry's own prophesied role. The game had just become considerably more complex. The Christmas holiday provided crucial time for research and planning. While most students returned home, Harry divided his time between Hogwarts, the Goblin Kingdom, and diplomatic missions to other magical communities. A breakthrough came during a meeting with Firenze, the centaur who had broken from his herd's isolationist stance to ally with Harry's coalition. The stars speak of convergence, the Palomino centaur told Harry as they walked the edge of the Forbidden Forest. Mars grows brighter, while Saturn and Jupiter approach alignment. A rare celestial configuration approaches. When? Harry asked, having learned to take centaur astronomical observations seriously. The summer solstice, Firenze replied. When day is longest and the veil between worlds thinnest. This timeline matched the goblin predictions about the Harvester's next major feeding cycle. Harry shared information about the nexus points and their Deathly Hallows configuration. Firenze's eyes widened. The Triangle of Transcendence. Our oldest legends speak of it, three cosmic forces brought to physical form, creating a gateway between life and death. A gateway the harvester intends to use somehow, Harry concluded. The centaur stamped a hoof anxiously. Such magic requires immense power, the kind harvested from widespread magical conflict. Which explains the escalating tensions between magical communities, Harry noted. The werewolf attack was just one example. There will be others, Firenze warned. The stars foretell blood between brothers before winter's end. This prophecy proved grimly accurate. In January, a delegation of goblins from Gringotts was ambushed while traveling to a meeting with French banking representatives. The attack bore hallmarks of wizard involvement, triggering immediate calls for retribution from goblin hardliners. Simultaneously, a wizard village near a mere-people settlement suffered mysterious flooding that destroyed several homes. Accusations flew in both directions, despite evidence suggesting magical tampering with natural water barriers that neither community would normally disturb. Harry worked tirelessly to prevent full-scale conflict, traveling between communities with evidence of third-party manipulation. His unique position as both Goblin King and Wizard gave him credibility in both worlds, though tensions remained high. At Hogwarts, the atmosphere grew increasingly strained. Students from families affected by the recent incidents clustered in suspicious groups. Even Harry's magical traditions study groups suffered as some members stopped attending, pressured by parents or peers to stick with their own kind. It's happening exactly as the Harvester wants, Harry told Luna and Neville during a late-night strategy session in the Room of Requirement. Division, suspicion, escalating toward open conflict. We need to counter with visible unity, Neville suggested. Something public that demonstrates cooperation between magical beings. Luna, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly looked up from the parchment where she'd been drawing complex patterns. The Chamber of Secrets, she said. We need to open it. Harry and Neville exchanged confused glances. The chamber is Slytherin's legacy of prejudice, Harry pointed out. How would opening it promote unity? Because it's not what everyone thinks, Luna replied with certainty. Daddy researched it years ago. Slytherin wasn't against Muggleborns specifically, he wanted to protect all magical beings from persecution. The chamber was created as a sanctuary, not a weapon. That contradicts everything in the historical record, Harry said skeptically. Written by the winners, Luna countered. Just like the Goblin Rebellion histories. This gave Harry pause. The accepted wizard versions of Goblin rebellions differed dramatically from Goblin historical accounts. Could the same be true of Slytherin's intentions? Even if that's true, Neville said practically, we still can't access the chamber without Parseltongue. Harry thought about Silvermark's theory that his magical core might have adapted to Parseltongue during his years with the Horcrux. Maybe we can. The Goblin researchers have been working on a way to stimulate latent magical abilities. The next day, Harry returned to the kingdom for consultation with Silvermark. She presented him with a small crystal vial containing a swirling silver-green potion. We call it Echo Essence, she explained. It's designed to reawaken magical patterns previously established in your core. If you once channeled Parseltongue, this might help you access that pathway again. Might? Harry questioned. Silvermark looked slightly uncomfortable. It's experimental. Based on ancient formulas with some modern adjustments. You've tested it? On simple acquired magical skills, yes. Nothing as complex as a language ability derived from a soul fragment. Harry studied the vial. The risks were significant, but accessing the chamber could provide crucial information about the Hogwarts nexus point. What's the worst that could happen? Temporary magical instability, Silvermark admitted. Possibly some bleed-through of residual Horcrux memories that weren't fully extracted. Harry grimaced but pocketed the vial. I'll take my chances. Back at Hogwarts, Harry shared the plan with Luna and Neville in their secure meeting room. This sounds dangerous, Neville said worriedly. Maybe we should try something else first. Time is running short, Harry reminded him. The centaurs predict the celestial alignment at summer solstice, less than 6 months away. Luna examined the potion with interest. It reminds me of dirigible plum extract. They're excellent for opening closed channels of perception. Harry wasn't entirely sure that was a vote of confidence, but he appreciated her support. I'll take it tonight. If it works, we'll explore the chamber this weekend. Alone in his quarters that evening, Harry examined the vial one final time before uncorking it. The liquid gave off faint wisps of silver vapor and smelled strangely like metal and scales. Bottoms up, he muttered, then down the contents in one swallow. The effect was immediate and intense. Heat spread from his stomach throughout his body, culminating in a pressure behind his eyes and tongue. Colors sharpened, sounds became clearer yet somehow distorted. Harry gripped the edge of his desk as wave after wave of sensation washed over him. Then came the memories, fragmentary images not his own. A grand chamber with serpentine columns. A young, handsome boy opening an ornate door. A massive serpent coiling through ancient pipes. Harry gasped as his vision cleared. He could feel something new, or rather, something old reawakened, in his magical core. A particular channel that resonated differently from his usual magic. He focused on that sensation, trying to speak. What emerged was a strange, sibilant hiss that made perfect sense to his ears: open. The echo essence had worked. The question now was whether the ability would last long enough to explore the chamber. The following Saturday, Harry, Luna, and Neville, accompanied by Silvertooth, slipped into the second-floor girls' bathroom that Hogwarts legends identified as the entrance to the chamber. Moaning Myrtle haunts this bathroom because she was killed by the basilisk, Luna explained casually. She doesn't like to talk about it, but the death point often retains connections to the magical event that caused it. Sure enough, the ghost of a bespectacled girl emerged from a stall, looking surprised to find visitors. "Boys aren't allowed in here," she said petulantly before recognizing Harry. "Oh. You're the Goblin King everyone talks about." "Hello, Myrtle," Harry greeted her politely. "We're investigating the Chamber of Secrets. I understand you might have some connection to it." Myrtle preened at the attention. "I died right here in this very stall," she confirmed with macabre pride. "All I saw were great big yellow eyes by that sink," she pointed, "and then I was, well, dead." Harry examined the indicated sink, finding a tiny snake etched into one of the copper taps. He concentrated on the serpentine channel in his magic, visualizing the snake as alive. "Open," he hissed in Parseltongue. The sink began to move, sinking into the floor to reveal a large pipe wide enough for a person to slide down. "Blimey," Neville whispered. It actually worked. Harry peered into the darkness. "I'll go first. Silvertooth, you follow." Then Luna and Neville. One by one, they descended into the pipe, which functioned like a steep, slimy slide, carrying them deep beneath the castle. They landed in a damp tunnel littered with small animal bones. "Charming," Silvertooth muttered, drawing her short sword. Harry illuminated his wand with a powerful lumos, revealing a passage stretching ahead. "Stay close. If there's still a basilisk down here, don't look directly at its eyes." They moved cautiously through the tunnel until they reached a solid wall carved with 2 entwined serpents. "Open," Harry commanded again in Parseltongue. The snakes parted as the wall cracked open, revealing the chamber itself, a long, dim hall supported by towering pillars carved as serpents. At the far end stood an enormous statue of Salazar Slytherin, his ancient face stern and monkey-like. "It's magnificent," Luna breathed, her voice echoing slightly. Harry approached the center of the chamber, searching for signs of a basilisk. "It doesn't appear anyone's been here in decades." "Look at these," Neville called, examining inscriptions on the base of one pillar. "These aren't just decorative. They're historical records." Luna joined him, tracing the ancient runes with her fingers. "You're right. It's an account of the Founder's era, but..." She frowned, "different from the version we know." Harry and Silvertooth conducted a thorough search of the chamber while Luna and Neville deciphered the inscriptions. There was no sign of a living basilisk, though they discovered a side chamber containing what appeared to be a massive serpent's shedding, confirming the creature had indeed existed. The basilisk must be dormant or deceased, Harry concluded. Though given their lifespan, dormant seems more likely. Harry, you need to see this, Luna called urgently. The inscriptions tell a different story about why Slytherin left Hogwarts. Harry joined them at the pillar, where Luna had been translating the ancient text. According to this, Slytherin didn't leave because he opposed Muggle-born students, she explained. He left because he wanted Hogwarts to accept all magical beings, including goblins, centaurs, and mere-people. The other founders refused. That's the opposite of what history tells us, Harry said, stunned. The chamber wasn't built to house a monster to purge the school, Neville added, pointing to another section. It was created as a meeting place where representatives from all magical communities could gather safely, outside ministry oversight. The basilisk was a guardian, Luna continued, meant to protect the chamber from those who would prevent such cooperation. Harry examined the inscriptions himself, finding additional evidence supporting their interpretation. This changes everything about how we view Slytherin's legacy. And explains why this location contains a magical nexus point, Silvertooth observed. It was designed for interbeing cooperation, the exact opposite of what the Harvester wants. Further exploration revealed a hidden passage beneath Slytherin's statue, accessible via another Parseltongue command. This tunnel led deeper, eventually opening into a crystalline cavern where the walls pulsed with magical energy. The nexus point, Harry confirmed, feeling the powerful magical currents converging at the center of the chamber. Unlike the chamber above, this space showed signs of recent disturbance, scorch marks on the floor forming complex patterns, residue from ritual components, and a lingering magical signature unlike anything Harry had encountered before. Someone's been using this, Silvertooth said grimly, examining the ritual circle. Recently. Harry knelt to study the markings. These are blood runes, designed to channel and store magical energy. He traced one pattern that repeated throughout the circle. And this symbol, it's the Deathly Hallows. The Harvester has already been here, Luna concluded. Preparing for whatever ritual they're planning at the solstice. Harry nodded, a chill running down his spine. And they have access to Hogwarts, right under our noses. The discovery in the Chamber of Secrets accelerated their timeline dramatically. Harry called an emergency joint meeting between the Goblin Council and key allies from other magical communities, including Dumbledore, Lupin representing werewolves, Firenze for the centaurs, and a merperson elder who participated through a specialized water sphere that allowed breathing and communication above water. The ritual preparations are further along than we anticipated, Harry explained, showing magical projections of what they'd found. 5 of the 7 nexus points show similar ritual markings. Whoever this Harvester is, they move freely through heavily warded areas, Ragnarok added. Including Hogwarts itself. Dumbledore looked particularly troubled by this news. The castle's protections are among the strongest in magical Britain. To bypass them requires either insider access or magic beyond contemporary understanding. Or both, Harry suggested. We need to consider the possibility that the Harvester is someone known to us, someone with legitimate access to these locations. An uncomfortable silence fell as attendees considered potential suspects within their own communities. What exactly does this ritual aim to accomplish? Asked the merperson elder, her voice echoing strangely through the water sphere. You speak of a gateway, but to where? For what purpose? Harry nodded to Nagnok, who activated another projection showing their compiled research. Based on historical patterns and recent evidence, Nagnok explained, we believe the Harvester is attempting to create a permanent conduit between our world and the realm of death. Not to conquer death, Harry clarified, but to control the flow of magical energy between realms. Such a conduit would give the operator unprecedented power, essentially feeding on the magic of both the living and the dead. Lupin leaned forward. Is this connected to the Deathly Hallows? The physical objects themselves. It appears so, Harry confirmed. The ritual requires the actual hallows placed at specific points within the Nexus configuration. All eyes turned to Dumbledore, who sighed heavily. As some of you know, I possess the Elder Wand. Harry has the invisibility cloak. The resurrection stone was in the ring Horcrux, now cleansed but damaged. 3 hallows, all within our reach, Ragnarok observed. Perhaps too conveniently. Unless that was always part of the Harvester's plan, Harry suggested. Ensuring the hallows were found and gathered by those who would eventually bring them together. The implications of this possibility, that they had been unwitting pieces in the Harvester's game all along, cast a pall over the meeting. We have one advantage, Harry continued, determined to maintain momentum. We know what the Harvester doesn't realize we know. We can set a trap. Over the next hour, they developed a counterplan. Rather than attempting to prevent the Harvester from accessing the Nexus points, they would allow the ritual to begin while positioning their own forces strategically. The Goblin Nation would contribute specialized containment technology, centaurs would monitor celestial alignments to predict the exact timing, werewolves would provide perimeter security, mere people would guard underwater approaches. What about Voldemort? Firenze asked. If he serves the Harvester's purpose by creating conflict, will he not be involved? Almost certainly, Harry agreed. Which is why we must accelerate our efforts to destroy his remaining Horcruxes before the solstice. Without those anchors, he'll be vulnerable. Dumbledore nodded. I have leads on the location of the Locket Horcrux. With your goblin methods of destruction, we could neutralize it quickly. As the meeting concluded, attendees departed with specific assignments and a renewed sense of urgency. Harry remained behind with Dumbledore to discuss the Horcrux hunt in more detail. The locket was originally hidden in the cave we discussed, Dumbledore explained, but my investigations suggest it was removed years ago by a Death Eater named Regulus Black, Sirius Black's younger brother. Sirius Black. My godfather? Harry asked, surprised. This connection had never been mentioned before. Dumbledore looked momentarily disconcerted. Yes, though he's currently in Azkaban for a crime he didn't commit, Harry interrupted. The Goblins investigated the Potter estate matters years ago and discovered inconsistencies in the official narrative. Sirius wasn't the secret keeper, Peter Pettigrew was. Now it was Dumbledore's turn to look surprised. You've known about Sirius's innocence all this time? And done nothing to help him? Harry challenged. No. The Goblin Nation filed appeals with the DMLE 3 times. They were rejected without review because goblins have no standing in wizard criminal proceedings. I was unaware, Dumbledore admitted. Convenient, Harry replied coolly. Just as it was convenient to leave a 4-year-old at Gringotts rather than with his rightful guardian. The tension between them, temporarily submerged during their alliance against the Harvester, resurfaced forcefully. The past cannot be changed, Harry, Dumbledore said finally. But perhaps we can address the present. With new evidence, I could petition for Sirius's case to be reopened. Do it, Harry said firmly. Not just because he's innocent, but because we need every ally we can get for what's coming. From what I've heard, Sirius Black was a formidable wizard. Dumbledore nodded. One of the most talented of his generation. Very well, I'll begin proceedings immediately. Their conversation returned to the Horcrux hunt, with Dumbledore sharing his belief that the locket had made its way to the Black family home, the very building that now served as Order headquarters. If Regulus stole it from Voldemort's hiding place, Dumbledore theorized, he likely brought it home before his mysterious disappearance. I'll need access to the house, Harry said. The detection methods we've developed are more sensitive than conventional magic. Dumbledore hesitated only briefly before nodding. I'll arrange it. As secret keeper for the Order's headquarters, I can bring you in. This cooperation represented a significant shift in their relationship, perhaps the beginning of the true trust they would need to confront what lay ahead. The following week brought multiple breakthroughs. Harry, accompanied by Silvertooth and Iron Fist, visited Grimmauld Place under Dumbledore's introduction. The ancient Black family home proved to be a treasure trove of dark magical objects, making Horcrux detection challenging amidst the background magical noise. Their search eventually led them to an old locket that resisted all attempts to open it. Harry's Horcrux detecting dagger confirmed their suspicions by glowing fiercely in its presence. Slytherin's locket, Dumbledore confirmed, examining the ornate S on its surface. One of Voldemort's first Horcruxes. While they prepared to destroy it using the now refined goblin methods, an unexpected voice interrupted them. Master should not be touching creature's treasure. Master promised creature. An ancient house elf had appeared, looking distressed at the sight of the locket in Harry's hands. What followed was a remarkable tale of Regulus Black's defiance against Voldemort, his discovery of the Horcrux secret, and his sacrifice to retrieve the locket, entrusting creature with its destruction before being dragged to his death by Inferi in the cave. Master Regulus was brave, creature concluded, tears streaming down his wrinkled face. But creature failed him. Creature could not destroy the locket. Harry knelt to address the elf at eye level. You didn't fail, creature. Horcruxes can only be destroyed by very specific methods. But we can finish Regulus's mission now, if you'll allow us. The ritual to destroy the locket Horcrux was conducted in the basement of Grimmauld Place, with creature watching intently. Unlike the diadem, this Horcrux fought viciously, projecting terrifying images from the observer's fears and insecurities before Harry finally managed to pierce it with the now-enhanced dagger. Creature thanks the Goblin King, the old elf said afterward, bowing deeply. Master Regulus can rest now. This success was followed days later by equally significant news. The Ministry of Magic had granted Sirius Black a new hearing based on evidence Dumbledore had presented. While not yet a full exoneration, it represented progress that had seemed impossible weeks earlier. Meanwhile, the hunt for the Cup Horcrux in the Lestrange Vault presented a more complex challenge. As Goblin King, Harry could technically order access, but doing so would violate banking protocols that were fundamental to Goblin society. The solution came from an unexpected source, Dobby the House Elf, who had been monitoring Death Eater families. Dobby has learned that Mistress Bellatrix keeps a strand of her hair in a special box at Malfoy Manor, the excitable elf reported during a strategy meeting. For emergency access to her vault. This information proved crucial. Goblin vaults recognized not just keys but magical signatures, typically the account holder themselves, but sometimes proxy items containing their essence. A specialized team led by Silvertooth conducted a covert operation to retrieve the hair sample, allowing them to create a limited-use access token that satisfied Goblin banking laws while permitting entry to the vault. Harry personally led the retrieval mission, accompanied by Nagnok and 2 Goblin security specialists. Inside the vast Lestrange vault, filled with treasures accumulated over centuries, they located Hufflepuff's cup sitting on a high shelf. The security enchantments are extensive, Nagnok warned, analyzing the magical protections. Gemino and Flagranti curses at minimum. We won't remove it, Harry decided. We'll destroy it here. Using levitation to avoid touching any items directly, Harry positioned himself near the cup. The destruction process in such a confined, magically charged space proved challenging. The Horcrux's death throes triggered multiple security measures, causing treasures to multiply and heat rapidly. Harry maintained a shield of Goblin Earth magic around their team while completing the ritual. When the cup finally cracked, releasing the trapped soul fragment, the resulting magical backlash knocked them all off their feet. For down, Harry gasped, regaining his balance. 2 to go. The moving Horcrux remained elusive, but their research had narrowed possibilities considerably. Most disturbing was their leading theory, that Voldemort's snake, Nagini, contained the final Horcrux, making it both well-protected and mobile. As May turned to June, preparations accelerated on all fronts. The alliance between magical beings grew stronger despite occasional setbacks and lingering suspicions. Harry divided his time between coordinating defense plans, completing school requirements, and strengthening his own magical abilities for the confrontation ahead. The question of the harvester's identity remained unanswered, despite intensive investigation. Their working theory narrowed candidates to someone with access to Hogwarts and other secured locations, knowledge of ancient magic beyond contemporary understanding, lifelong connection to the Deathly Hallows, ability to manipulate events across multiple magical communities. The list of possibilities was disturbingly short, and included some of their own allies. 1 week before the summer solstice, Harry stood on the astronomy tower with Luna and Neville, watching a meteor shower that Firenze had identified as a precursor to the coming alignment. "Beautiful," Luna murmured as streaks of light crossed the night sky. "Hard to believe something so lovely could herald something so dangerous." "That's often how it works," Harry replied. "The most dangerous magic rarely looks threatening until it's too late." Neville leaned against the stone balustrade. "Do you really think we can stop this harvester? They've been planning this for centuries." "We have to," Harry said simply. "The alternative is an endless cycle of magical warfare, with beings that should be allies forever turned against each other." Luna's dreamy voice took on an unusually serious tone. "The prophecy says you need 2 crowns. You have the goblin crown, but what's the second?" Harry had pondered this question repeatedly since discovering the full prophecy text. "I don't know. Maybe it's symbolic rather than literal. Or maybe it's something you haven't claimed yet," Neville suggested. "Something connected to your wizard heritage." Their contemplation was interrupted by the arrival of Silvertooth, who bore an urgent message. "Your Majesty," she said, "forgetting their agreement to use his name at Hogwarts, we've detected unusual magical activity at the Albanian Nexus Point. And reports of Voldemort being sighted nearby." Harry's expression hardened. "He's making his move earlier than expected. Alert the Council and our allies. I'll inform Dumbledore." The next 24 hours became a whirlwind of activity. Intelligence confirmed Voldemort had indeed returned to a rudimentary physical form, likely through dark magic involving the Albanian Nexus Point's energy. More alarming were reports of coordinated attacks against multiple magical communities, wizard villages near Centaur territories, merperson settlements adjacent to coastal wizard towns, and several goblin mining outposts. None were directly claimed by Death Eaters, but all bore hallmarks of deliberate instigation. "It's starting," Harry told the emergency council gathered in Dumbledore's office. "The Harvester is creating the conflicts they need to harvest magical energy for the solstice ritual. We must accelerate our timeline," Firenze agreed, his tail swishing anxiously. "The stars show the alignment beginning sooner than calculated." "What about the final Horcruxes?" Lupin asked. "Has there been progress?" Harry exchanged glances with Dumbledore. "We've confirmed Nagini is indeed a Horcrux," the headmaster answered. "And we believe we've identified the other, a Hogwarts relic connected to Ravenclaw, which Harry's team already destroyed months ago." This wasn't entirely accurate. They had strong suspicions about a 7th Horcrux, created unintentionally the night Voldemort attacked the Potters. But with the Horcrux in Harry's scar already removed years ago, this theoretical 7th vessel remains speculative and potentially irrelevant. "Then Nagini is the last anchor," Ragnarok concluded. "If we destroy it, Voldemort becomes mortal again. And considerably easier to deal with than an immortal Dark Lord," Silvertooth added. Harry activated the tactical map they'd been developing, showing the 7 Nexus points and their current defensive preparations. "Our intelligence suggests the primary ritual will occur at the Stonehenge Nexus," he explained. "It's the central point of the Hallows configuration and aligns perfectly with the solstice sunrise. We'll position our main forces there," Dumbledore agreed, "while maintaining smaller teams at each of the other points to prevent secondary rituals." Harry continued, "The Harvester will need all 3 Hallows to complete the ritual. We control 2 directly, the Elder Wand and the Invisibility Cloak. The damaged Resurrection Stone remains in Dumbledore's possession. Which gives us a significant advantage," Lupin noted. "Unless that's precisely what the Harvester expects," Luna interjected softly. Everyone turned to look at her. What if gathering the Hallows together is part of their plan? What if we're doing exactly what they want? Her question hung in the air, uncomfortably plausible given how perfectly things seem to be falling into place. It's a risk we must consider, Harry acknowledged. Which is why we'll build contingencies into our defensive strategy. No one person should hold more than one Hallow at a time, and we'll establish a communication system that can't be compromised. The planning continued late into the night, with representatives from each magical community contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. By dawn, they had a comprehensive strategy that balanced offense, defense, and contingency plans. As the meeting broke up, Dumbledore asked Harry to remain behind. When they were alone, the headmaster removed a familiar object from his desk, the resurrection stone, set in the damaged ring. "I believe this should be in your possession," Dumbledore said, pushing it across the desk. Harry made no move to take it. "Why?" "The prophecy speaks of 2 crowns. The goblin crown you already wear. Perhaps this represents the second, mastery over death itself." Harry studied the stone thoughtfully. "Or perhaps it's exactly the trap Luna warned about. The Hallows coming together at the critical moment." "A possibility," Dumbledore conceded. "Yet I can't escape the feeling that you must be the one to carry this burden. My own history with the Hallows is complicated by personal weakness." For the first time, Harry saw genuine vulnerability in the old wizard's eyes, a glimpse of past mistakes and private grief that had shaped his long life. "What happened?" Harry asked quietly. Dumbledore sighed deeply. "A story for another time, perhaps. But know this, my sister died because of my obsession with the Hallows many years ago. I cannot trust myself with their power, especially now." Harry considered this unexpected confession. "I'll take the stone," he decided finally, "but not to use it. To keep it separate from the other Hallows until we understand the Harvester's true plan." As his fingers closed around the cracked ring, Harry felt a strange resonance with his goblin crown, not opposition but completion, as though 2 parts of himself were acknowledging each other. "2 crowns," he murmured. "Death and life. Endings and beginnings. The bridge between worlds," Dumbledore added softly. The summer solstice dawned clear and bright, with the longest day of the year promising perfect conditions for the celestial alignment the Harvester required. Harry rose before sunrise, donning battle armor that merged goblin craftsmanship with wizard enchantments, another bridge between his dual heritage. His forces had deployed throughout the night, goblin warriors with specialized containment technology positioned around Stonehenge, centaur scouts monitoring approach routes, werewolf packs, granted special transformation potions by Snape, patrolling the perimeter, merperson sentinels watching nearby water sources, and wizard allies from both Dumbledore's order and trusted Hogwarts students maintaining outer defensive wards. Harry himself, accompanied by Silvertooth, Neville, and Luna, approached the ancient stone circle as first light touched the horizon. The megalithic structure hummed with barely contained magical energy, the nexus point already activating as the solstice alignment began. "No sign of the Harvester yet," Silvertooth reported, scanning the area. "But the magical signature is strengthening." Luna moved dreamlike between the standing stones, her enhanced senses perceiving patterns invisible to others. "The veil is thinning," she murmured. "I can hear whispers from the other side." Neville maintained a connection with plant life surrounding the site, having developed this affinity considerably over the past year. "Something's approaching underground," he warned. "The roots can feel it, something cold moving through the earth." Harry extended his hybrid magical perception, combining goblin stone sense with wizard detection charms. What he felt chilled him to the bone, a vast, ancient presence rising toward them, neither fully alive nor dead but existing in a terrible in-between state. "It's coming," he said quietly, drawing both his wand and goblin-forged sword. "Everyone to positions." The sunrise intensified, sending a beam of light through the heel stone to illuminate the center of the circle. As predicted, the alignment was perfect, creating a channel of pure magical energy that connected this nexus to the other 6 points across the world. The ground began to tremble. Cracks appeared in the earth, spreading outward from the center in the unmistakable pattern of the Deathly Hallows symbol. From these fissures rose a cold mist that coalesced slowly into a hooded figure of immense proportions. The harvester had arrived. Its form was difficult to focus on, shifting between solid and vapor, ancient and young, wizard and something altogether different. Only the eyes remained constant, burning with hunger accumulated over centuries. Harry Potter, it spoke, its voice like stone grinding against stone. The bridge. The dual-crowned. I've waited so long to meet you properly. Harry stepped forward, signaling the others to maintain position. You have me at a disadvantage. You know who I am, but we only know what you are, not who. The figure seemed to smile beneath its hood. Names become meaningless after enough time passes. I've worn many. Been many. To some, I was a Christies. To others, Emmerich the Evil. In more recent memory. Well, that would be telling too much too soon. Harry's mind raced through magical history. Christies, the dark wizard who created Azkaban Fortress, Emmerich, an early wielder of the Elder Wand. Both separated by centuries yet supposedly the same entity. You're a Horcrux creator, Harry realized. But far beyond what Voldemort attempted. Crude imitations of true immortality, the harvester dismissed. Fragmenting one's soul creates instability. I found a more elegant solution, harvesting magical energy released during conflicts between magical beings. Energy that sustains me between ritual cycles. Manipulating creatures to war against each other, Silvertooth spat. For your parasitic existence. The harvester's attention shifted to her. Ah, the loyal goblin. Your kind has been particularly useful over the centuries, so easily provoked to rebellion, so furious at wizard oppression. The energy harvested from goblin wars alone sustained me through the 1700s. Harry felt rage building but controlled it. Anger was exactly what the harvester wanted, more conflict, more energy to feed upon. Why reveal yourself now, he asked instead. You've operated from shadows for centuries. The massive figure gestured toward the sky, where the solstice light continued to strengthen. Because after today, shadows will no longer be necessary. The alignment allows for the final ritual, not just harvesting energy, but creating a permanent conduit between realms. Unlimited power, drawn continuously from both living and dead. That would destabilize the barrier between worlds, Luna interjected, her dreamy voice suddenly sharp with understanding. Ghosts, spirits, the dead themselves, all would be affected. Collateral damage in the pursuit of ultimate power, the harvester acknowledged carelessly. Now, Harry Potter, you have something I need. 3 somethings, to be precise. Harry tensed. The Hallows. The keys to my ritual. Created long ago for this very purpose, then scattered for safekeeping until the proper alignment returned. The harvester's form solidified slightly. You've done well, gathering them together. Exactly as prophecy, my prophecy, required. This confirmation of Luna's suspicion, that they had been manipulated into bringing the Hallows together, sent a chill through Harry's spine. Yet something didn't add up. If you created the Hallows, Harry challenged, why didn't you keep them yourself? Why allow them to be separated and risk losing them? Because they require charging, came the unexpected reply. Centuries of use, desire, death, building their unique magical signatures through legend and sacrifice. Items of power untouched grow dormant. These needed to become the stuff of dreams and nightmares to fulfill their true purpose. As they spoke, Harry sensed movement around the perimeter, their allies taking position as planned. Dumbledore himself stood at the northern point, Elder Wand ready but not yet visible to the harvester. And Voldemort? Harry pressed, buying time. Just another pawn in your game? The harvester laughed, a terrible sound like breaking glass. A particularly useful one. So consumed by his fear of death, so willing to shatter his soul, so effective at creating the perfect conditions for harvesting. Even now, his forces attack magical communities across Britain, generating exquisite conflict energy. As if summoned by the words, a new presence materialized within the stone circle, Voldemort himself, restored to a physical form that appeared almost human but with serpentine features and glowing red eyes. Beside him slithered Nagini, the final Horcrux. "Master," Voldemort addressed the Harvester with uncharacteristic subservience. "The attacks proceed as planned. The Ministry itself is under siege." Harry met Voldemort's gaze evenly. "You know you're being used." The great Lord Voldemort, reduced to a servant. Fury flashed across Voldemort's face, but the Harvester interjected before he could respond. "He serves willingly, for proper compensation. Immortality beyond what his flawed Horcruxes provide. True mastery over death itself." The massive figure turned back to Harry. "Now, the Hallows. Provide them willingly, and your friends may survive as subjects in the new order. Resist, and they perish painfully." Harry's response was a signal to his hidden allies, a subtle gesture that activated their prepared countermeasures. Instantly, goblin-forged containment fields erupted around the stone circle, creating a dome of shimmering energy that separated them from outside reinforcements. "I don't think so," Harry said calmly. "Your ritual ends here." The Harvester's form pulsed with anger. "Foolish child. You cannot contain me. I have prepared for this moment for centuries." "So have we," Harry countered. "Or did you think your manipulations went unnoticed? The goblin prophecy warned of you, the eternal harvester, the one who feeds on strife." For the first time, uncertainty flickered in the ancient entity's eyes. "Impossible. I created those prophecies myself to guide events." "You created some," Harry agreed. "But magic has its own will. Its own balance. For every dark prophecy you planted, true prophecies emerged to counter them." The containment field strengthened as goblin technicians channeled additional power into the barrier. Dumbledore stepped forward, Elder Wand now visible in his hand. "It's over," the headmaster declared. "The Nexus points have been secured. Your ritual cannot be completed." The Harvester's form seemed to expand with rage, pushing against the containment field. "You think yourselves so clever. But I have contingencies you cannot imagine." At a gesture from the ancient entity, Voldemort raised his wand. Not toward Harry or Dumbledore, but toward the earth itself. Crucio terram. The ground beneath them screamed, there was no other word for it. The earth itself convulsed in agony as Voldemort channeled a corrupted Cruciatus into the very soil of the Nexus Point. The containment field fluctuated as its foundation destabilized. Harry dropped to his knees, pressing his palms against the tortured earth. As Goblin King, his connection to stone and soil ran deep, and the pain he felt through that connection was excruciating. "Harry!" Neville shouted, rushing to his side. With his own affinity for earth magic, he too could sense the land's suffering. Together, they channeled healing energy into the ground, Neville's plant affinity combined with Harry's goblin earth magic creating a counterbalance to Voldemort's curse. Slowly, the convulsions subsided. But the damage was done. The containment field had weakened enough for the Harvester to send tendrils of power beyond it, connecting with the other Nexus points despite the protections in place. "The alignment peaks in moments," the ancient entity gloated. "And I need only one Hallow to initiate the process. The others can be added as the portal stabilizes." With frightening speed, the Harvester lunged toward Dumbledore, dark energy wrapping around the Elder Wand. The headmaster fought back with extraordinary skill, but the Harvester's power proved overwhelming. "I crafted this wand," the entity hissed. "It recognizes its true master." To everyone's horror, the Elder Wand slipped from Dumbledore's grasp, flying into the Harvester's outstretched hand. Immediately, the wand began to glow with unnatural light, channeling power into the alignment. Harry knew they had seconds to act. Now, he shouted to his allies. On his signal, multiple actions occurred simultaneously. Centaur archers released arrows enchanted with combined magical traditions at the Harvester, werewolves charged Voldemort from multiple directions, Luna activated a device that disrupted the Nexus alignment, and Silvertooth led a Goblin strike team directly toward Nagini. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Voldemort fended off the werewolves with blasts of killing curse energy while the snake slithered protectively around him. The Harvester, though distracted by the attacks, continued channeling power through the Elder Wand into the growing portal above Stonehenge. Harry pressed the advantage of surprise, drawing both his hybrid wand and the Horcrux-killing dagger. He needed to destroy Nagini before confronting the Harvester directly. "Dumbledore," he called. The portal. The headmaster, recovered from losing the Elder Wand, began an intricate counterspell aimed at disrupting the forming gateway. Light and darkness battled in the air above them as the solstice sun reached its peak. Harry fought his way toward Voldemort, deflecting curses while Neville and Luna provided covering fire. Nearby, Silvertooth engaged Death Eaters who had apparat to their master's defense despite the containment field's weakened state. "Potter," Voldemort spat as they finally stood face to face. "Always interfering. Always surviving." "That ends today," Harry replied, but not in the way Voldemort expected. "For both of us." With a sudden movement, Harry flung the dagger, not at Voldemort, but at Nagini. The blade, charged with basilisk venom and phoenix tears, struck true, embedding itself in the massive snake's skull. The Horcrux's death throes were violent and immediate. Black energy erupted from the serpent's body as the soul fragment was destroyed. Voldemort screamed in agony, feeling the destruction of his final anchor to immortality. Harry didn't waste the opportunity. He pressed forward, combining wizard dueling techniques with goblin battle magic in a relentless assault. Voldemort, weakened by the Horcrux destruction but still formidable, fought back with increasing desperation. Above them, the portal continued to grow despite Dumbledore's efforts. The Harvester, now partially merged with the gateway itself, reached toward the other side, toward whatever dark power awaited in the realm of death. "I need the other Hallows," the ancient entity roared. "Bring them to me." Harry knew the moment had come to risk everything. While maintaining his duel with Voldemort, he reached into his armor and withdrew the Resurrection Stone. Not to surrender it, but to use it in a way neither the Harvester nor anyone else anticipated. "You want the stone?" he called to the Harvester. "Here's what it truly does." He turned the stone 3 times in his hand, focusing not on calling back specific dead individuals but on something much more fundamental, connecting with the very essence of death itself as an equal, not a master or victim. The effect was immediate and stunning. The portal, instead of opening wider, seemed to hesitate, as though the natural order of death was asserting itself against the Harvester's manipulation. "What are you doing?" the ancient entity shrieked, its form fluctuating violently. "Restoring balance," Harry answered, continuing to channel power through the stone while simultaneously fighting Voldemort. Death isn't meant to be mastered or exploited, it's part of the natural cycle of magic itself. The goblin crown on Harry's head began to glow with earth magic, while the Resurrection Stone emitted a contrasting light of its own, not opposing but complementary, like 2 sides of the same coin. 2 crowns, just as the prophecy foretold. Voldemort, sensing the shifting balance, launched a desperate killing curse directly at Harry. Without breaking his connection to the stone, Harry deflected it with a goblin shield charm, sending it ricocheting toward the Harvester instead. The curse struck the ancient entity at precisely the moment the portal reached its maximum potential. Instead of killing the Harvester, which was likely impossible through conventional means, it created a fundamental instability in the ritual. "No!" the Harvester howled as its carefully constructed magical pattern began to collapse. Centuries of preparation. Harry seized the opportunity, channeling both goblin and wizard magic through his hybrid wand in a powerful blast that struck the Elder Wand itself, not to claim it, but to disrupt its connection to the Harvester. The legendary wand, caught between masters and purposes, exploded in a shower of splinters, releasing centuries of accumulated magical energy directly into the destabilizing portal. The chain reaction was catastrophic for the Harvester's plans. The portal, designed to channel death energy into our world, instead began to pull inward, creating a vortex that specifically targeted unnaturally extended life. The harvester's form distorted as the vortex grew stronger. This isn't possible. The Hallows cannot be turned against their creator. They weren't created for power, Harry replied with sudden understanding. They were corrupted for it. Their original purpose was balance, life and death in harmony, not domination. As if confirming his words, the resurrection stone in Harry's hand pulsed with renewed energy, merging its power with his goblin crown to strengthen the vortex. Voldemort, realizing too late the danger, attempted to flee. But his unnatural existence, sustained through murder, soul fragmentation, and dark rituals, made him a perfect target for the collapsing portal. No. I cannot die. I am Lord Voldemort. He screamed as the vortex pulled him inexorably upward. All things die, Harry said quietly. Even you. The Dark Lord's form stretched and distorted before being violently pulled into the vortex, his final scream cut short as he vanished into the collapsing gateway. The Harvester fought more effectively, having experienced and manipulated death for centuries. It anchored itself to the standing stones, drawing on their ancient power to resist. You cannot defeat me so easily, Bridge Walker, it snarled. I am eternal. I will return when the alignment comes again. Harry knew it spoke truth. This entity was too powerful to be completely destroyed. But perhaps it could be contained in a way it had never anticipated. Everyone clear the circle, he commanded. His allies retreated beyond the standing stones while Harry remained at the center with the weakened but still dangerous Harvester. Drawing on the deepest wellspring of his hybrid magic, Harry raised both crowns, the physical goblin crown and the metaphorical crown represented by the resurrection stone. As Goblin King and Master of Death, not through conquest but acceptance, he channeled their combined power into the earth beneath Stonehenge. You feed on conflict, Harry told the struggling entity. So I'm placing you where there is none. The ground beneath them liquefied into a whirlpool of stone and soil, a manifestation of Harry's goblin earth magic at its most powerful. The Harvester, already weakened by the collapsing ritual and loss of the Elder Wand, could not break free as the very nexus point it had sought to exploit became its prison. This won't hold me forever, the Harvester raged as it sank deeper. It doesn't need to, Harry replied calmly. Just long enough for us to break the cycle of manufactured conflict. Without war between magical beings, you have no food source. The realization dawned in the ancient entity's eyes, a fear more profound than mere imprisonment. You wouldn't dare unite them. Centuries of hatred cannot be overcome. Watch me, Harry said with quiet determination. With a final howl of rage, the Harvester disappeared beneath the stone circle, sealed by complex layers of goblin warding, centaur celestial magic, wizard enchantments, and merpeople water bindings, all traditions working in harmony for the first time in centuries. The summer solstice light faded to normal as the alignment passed. The portal closed completely, leaving only a faint shimmering in the air above Stonehenge. Harry stood in the center of the circle, exhausted but triumphant. Around him gathered representatives from all the magical communities who had fought together, goblin, wizard, centaur, werewolf, merperson, house elf, and others who had joined the alliance. It's over. Neville asked hesitantly, surveying the damaged landscape. This battle is, Harry confirmed. But our work is just beginning. Luna approached, her dreamy expression returning now that the immediate danger had passed. 2 crowns, she observed, nodding at the goblin crown and the resurrection stone still clutched in Harry's hand. Just as the prophecy said. Dumbledore joined them, looking older but somehow lighter without the Elder Wand's burden. Not mastery over death, he said thoughtfully, but understanding of it. That was what the Peverell brothers originally intended before the Harvester corrupted their creation. Harry nodded. The Hallows were meant to teach that lesson, that death isn't to be conquered or feared, but accepted as part of a greater cycle. The Harvester twisted that purpose into a quest for domination. And now? Silvertooth asked, cleaning her blade on a fallen Death Eater's robes. Harry looked around at the diverse gathering of magical beings who had fought side by side despite centuries of engineered animosity. "Now we build something new," he said. "A council representing all magical traditions. Not ruled by wizards or goblins or any single group, but working in balance, the way magic itself was meant to function." Firenze stamped a hoof in approval. The stars foretold this day, not as an ending, but a beginning. In the days that followed, as news spread of Voldemort's final defeat and the mysterious magical phenomenon at Stonehenge, Harry worked tirelessly to maintain the fragile alliance forged in battle. The Ministry of Magic, weakened by the Death Eater assault and revelations of long-term manipulation, reluctantly accepted the formation of an interspecies magical council with equal representation. Sirius Black, finally exonerated after an expedited trial, joined Harry as a bridge between traditional wizard families and the new council. His experience with injustice had given him a unique perspective on the need for systemic change. Luna's father published the full account of the Harvester's centuries-long manipulation in the Quibbler, a story gradually accepted even by mainstream publications as evidence mounted. Hermione Granger, inspired by these revelations, began a research project to identify and correct historically biased accounts of conflicts between magical beings. Neville emerged as an unexpected diplomat, his gentle nature and plant affinity making him particularly effective in negotiations with beings connected to earth magic. The Resurrection Stone was secured in a specially designed vault beneath Gringotts, available only when all council members unanimously agreed to its use. The remains of the Elder Wand were buried beneath the Forbidden Forest in a ceremony attended by representatives from all magical communities. As for Harry himself, he continued to walk between worlds, attending Hogwarts to complete his education while fulfilling his duties as Goblin King. The dual crowns he wore, one physical and one symbolic, represented not dominion but connection, the bridge between worlds that prophecy had foretold. On the anniversary of the Battle of Stonehenge, Harry stood again in the center of the ancient circle. The containment remained secure, though sometimes visitors reported hearing angry whispers from beneath the stones. "We know you're still there," Harry said quietly to the imprisoned entity. "And we remember what you taught us, though not as you intended." He placed a hand on the nearest standing stone, feeling the complex layers of protective magic from multiple traditions working in harmony. "Conflict will always exist," he continued. "We're too different not to disagree sometimes. But natural conflict is healthy, it's the forced, manipulated hatred that weakened us all. And that ends with your generation." As he turned to leave, Harry felt the goblin crown on his head and thought of its counterpart, not an object to be worn, but a responsibility to be carried. Master of death not through conquest but acceptance, king of goblins not through birth but adoption. Two worlds, two crowns, one bridge between them. The dual-crowned child of prophecy who had found his place not by choosing one heritage over another, but by embracing both. And as the sun set over Stonehenge, illuminating the ancient stones in golden light, Harry Potter, abandoned by Dumbledore at age 4, found by ancient goblins, and declared their immortal king, walked forward into a future no prophecy had fully described. A future he and his allies from all magical traditions would build together. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.